Are you Iggy Azalea?
Yes, but it's weird that you
I would just like to thank you so much for ruining hip-hop.
And I always say this, nobody have it harder in the industry and in every genre harder than a female rapper.
Female rappers have always had a hard time making it in hip-hop. However, sometimes what made them blow up ends up being the reason for their downfall. I'm Rashad Bashir, and this is female rappers who fell off. Starting off with Ice Spice. Ice Spice started pursuing a career in hip-hop in 2021, and although she had uploaded a bunch of freestyles on her Instagram, no one knew her. However, only a year later, Ice Spice released what would be the biggest song in her career, Munch, and overnight, she became a sensation. As if fully capturing what it takes to go viral on the internet, Munch immediately took over every social media, even catching the attention of artists such as Drake and Joe Budden. So much so that rumors that the former wanted to sign her to OVO because of Munch's success. However, while Ice's online antics worked well for her, and Munch was slowly becoming one of the largest, most viral songs of 2022, people started noticing that she wasn't that great of a hip-hop artist when it came to showing up live. During her first Rolling Loud performance in 2022, Fabio Foreign brought her on stage where she only performed a single verse. You're probably thinking, how hard could that be? Well, to everyone's surprise, Ice didn't even rap on stage. Instead, she just went ahead and twerked as if that was the only thing she knew how to do. Afterwards, fans clearly didn't appreciate her dance moves since this performance in particular led many to call her a one-verse wonder. One-hit wonder is wild, one-verse wonder is egregious. And this wasn't the only time she did that. In fact, throughout her career, people have been calling out Ice Spice for twerking instead of rapping on stage, with one commenter saying, "Every time she run out of something to do, she starts twerking, lol." But if you're gonna give her the benefit of the doubt, it's entirely possible that Ice was just very nervous during this performance. After all, she was very new to the industry, and to perform at a festival like that for the first time must have been very nerve-wracking for her. However, if she was shy enough to rap on stage, she wasn't shying away from getting the bag. See, things also became worse for Ice when it was rumored that Ice and her team were asking for more money than agreed on for shows and threatening to cancel them if they didn't agree with their new booking fee. This rumor got sparked by one promoter after he hopped on social media to announce that Ice had dropped them because their booking fee had increased. The promoter stated, "Due to matters out of her hands, Ice Spice will no longer be attending the party. As her status and song continue to grow daily, her team has decided to pull her off numerous shows. They feel like she's a much bigger artist than she was at the time she took some of her bookings." According to the promoter, the inflation wasn't ideal, especially for a rapper that hasn't even proven her skills live. In 3 weeks, her price has gone from 4K to 15K. They feel like she's bigger today than she was 3 weeks ago. However, Ice was quick to jump on this news, replying with a cap emoji to imply that the promoter was lying. However, fortunately for you Ice Spice fans out there, this was very early in her career, and she continued to play live shows, got better at it, and continued to release more tracks. So at the start of 2023, Ice's career was looking much better. However, in hip-hop, if you really lack talent and penmanship, you'll eventually fall off. And unfortunately for Ice, her ascent would eventually stop. While she did manage to hold her own when collaborating with some of the biggest names in the industry, like Nicki Minaj, she and her team made a lot of bad decisions. And one of the first examples of this was the Deli music video. Now, the song itself wasn't too bad. Her fans liked it, and it was everything fans expected from her. I guess you could say it was another baddie anthem for a core audience to listen to. However, once its music video dropped, that love turned to hate, and she received tons of backlash. But here's why. See, Ice had a serious problem, because the video featured a certain TikToker who performed, let's just say, dance moves alongside Ice throughout the video. And the issue was, that TikToker was not 18 years old when the video was shot. Of course, many saw this as a massive problem. This was obviously not a good look for Ice and her team, and people online wasted no time letting Ice know how wrong the whole thing was. However, this controversy didn't seem to stop Ice's career in any way, and the discourse surrounding it eventually died down as the video eventually ended up having over 100 million views on YouTube. So to say that the video and the song were successful is an understatement. But unfortunately, Ice's public controversies wouldn't stop there though, because just a few months later, Ice Spice's ex-best friend, Baby Storm, leaked text messages between them that showed Ice complaining about Nicki Minaj. If you don't know anything about Nicki Minaj, her fanbase is insane. It was almost as if everything she had built up, including a relationship with her idol, Nicki Minaj, suddenly crumbled in just a matter of a few days. You see, these texts between Ice and Baby Storm apparently occurred while they were recording Barbie World. According to the text, dealing with Nicki had been difficult for Ice Spice and her team, with Cleo asking, "How'd the call end yesterday?" On a good note, presumably this call is regarding negotiations between Ice and Nicki's team on how they would approach the publication rights for Barbie World, to which Ice replied, "Open-ended again, but then James called me with Nicki's old manager of 11 years, and he said that she was being unfair, asking for too much, which is what everyone's been telling me, but it's hard to negotiate with her because she doesn't let people talk like lawyers or James, etc." However, her rant didn't stop there. Ice also expressed that she hoped Nicki would compromise soon as they were about to complete the song for the Barbie soundtrack. And then, Ice revealed that this opportunity was hers alone, but she decided to have Nicki tag along. We're about to put out another record in June for the Barbie soundtrack, which is an opportunity I brought her because Barbie asked me to do it alone. But since that's her brand, I invited her on and she doesn't even see that as me bringing her something. She kinda like my mom, ungrateful and delusional. Unfortunately for Ice, the sentiment would end up biting her back, but more on that later. Going back to the DMs, Ice went on to explain that Nicki basically wanted publishing rights to all of Ice's songs for some reason, which didn't make sense since Ice was already signed to another label, and that Nicki basically said that it's what she did when Wayne signed her. So Nicki essentially wanted Ice to go through the same hoops as her, but Ice's deal was much better since her label allowed her to own all of her masters, which Ice thought Nicki was jealous of. She would even go as far as saying, "She gaslights me too much, I gotta love her from a distance for my mental health." Now, looking at all these messages, Ice seems like the reasonable party here. She brought Nicki a very good opportunity, but Nicki wanted to be the big shot and come out on top since she was older and more experienced in the industry, and Ice was just a young newcomer. However, unfortunately for Cleo, her plan of exposing Ice failed, because as soon as these messages were leaked, Ice wasn't the one who was painted in a bad light. The proof of this is the caption to her post where she uploaded these images, saying, "Good morning Barbs, as promised, this is how Isis really feels about your evil queen at Nicki Minaj, ungrateful and delusional, just like y'all. Enjoy." So what did Ice think? Well, in response to these leaks, Ice said this during an interview with Bootleg Kev.
You know, sometimes I'm tempted to like engage with certain things.
Like, let me clear this
Yeah, and so, but then I also realized you're gonna just give it legs to like grow and like run with.
Right. Yeah.
And I think sometimes you can over-explain yourself a little bit. So I just kind of like to like just focus on what I can control and like what really matters. You know what I mean?
So while Ice did come out of this whole thing looking like the sanest person in the whole situation, you have to remember that Nicki has a very massive fan base, and some of them can be quite intense. So Ice still had to deal with a bit of backlash from the whole thing. Things got even worse for Ice when it was later revealed that the music producers for Barbie also wanted Nicki to be on the soundtrack. Nicki rejected them for years because she didn't like any of the samples they gave her.
There were a couple songs that I didn't love, and then there was another song, well this Barbie sample, I loved it, I just wanted it to have like a dope drum.
Perhaps what happened here is that after rejecting them frequently, the producers just went with Ice Spice for the Barbie track, and when Ice brought it to Nicki, she jumped on board because she liked Riot's sample, A Barbie Girl. Either way, it was a win-win for the Barbie producers, but to Nicki's fans, it made Ice look ignorant and arrogant, as Nicki was always the first choice for the soundtrack, not her. But with all the controversy still surrounding her, Ice still claimed that she and Nicki weren't on bad terms at all, saying, "We don't have the closest relationship, you know, but we're definitely good. We're mutuals, we had smashed records together, I love us together. I think the world does too." While Nicki, on the other hand, has kept quiet about this whole thing since. Unfortunately, her controversies don't stop there. See, while things were tumultuous for Ice's relationship with Nicki, she was also busy making her debut full-length album, Y2K, in 2024. In the weeks and months leading up to the album's release, Ice released a couple of tracks that served as the album's singles. One of those tracks was called Did It First, which featured UK rapper Central C. Prior to the song's announcement, however, Ice and C were spotted together in public, sparking rumors that the two started dating. However, the problem was Central C wasn't single, and it was a pretty well-known fact that he was dating influencer and TikTok creator Madeline RG at the time. And while people saw Ice as a lot of things in regards to how she was over-sexualized for the sake of her career, one thing a lot of people didn't bank on was the idea of Ice being a side piece, which is why this was so surprising for a lot of her fans. Many speculated that she stole Central C from Madeline. However, it looked like Ice really didn't care, as she would double down and continue to fuel these rumors by constantly posting videos of her and Central C on TikTok. Ice even uploaded a TikTok captioned, "Mood after taking her mans," which prompted a simple "why" response from Madeline. How in the world that Ice couldn't see that this would backfire on her, or anyone on her team for that matter, I'll never know. And the moment she saw the massive backlash, she would immediately backpedal on everything. You see, when the single Did It First finally dropped, Ice said that the two were just friends. "We've been friends since Munch came out. Honestly, we're just twins," Ice told Rolling Stone magazine. So if Ice was telling the truth here, that means that all the rumors surrounding her and Central C, which she herself fueled as well, were nothing but marketing for a track. However, if it was just a marketing strategy, it didn't seem like Madeline was privy to any of it, as a few days after the track was released, Madeline explained her side of the whole situation during an episode of her Pretty Lonesome podcast.
My ex-boyfriend kind of publicly violated me through the means of using me as a in his PR stunt, and also not informing me of his PR stunt, which was to essentially make it look like he's sleeping with another girl.
As you can imagine, this whole situation must have been terrible for Madeline, and all for a 2-minute song. And what was the song about, you might ask? Well, it seems like the marketing strategy Ice and Central C went for with this track was very on topic, since the song was about cheating. If he's cheating, I'm doing him worse. No Uno, I hit the reverse. I ain't tripping, the grip in my purse. I don't care because he did it first. So was it really a marketing stunt? Because their lyrics said otherwise. Anyways, if it really was, well, it wasn't working. Just take a look at the success of her Y2K album. See, on July 26th of 2024, 3 years after she wowed the world with her hit single Munch, Ice Spice finally released her debut album, Y2K. This was meant to be a quintessential moment for Ice's career. Up until this point, she had only released EPs and singles and collaborated with other artists. This was her first full-length debut studio album, and it was supposed to take her musically to greater heights. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Just take a look at these lyrics. I'm Miss Poopy, but I never smell. Think you the shit, you not even the fart. I'm Miss Poopy, like I need a diaper. Things were so bad that people are accusing Ice of having a fetish, which is just really weird. At this point, we gotta ask if she got a fetish, because what is with the diaper and fart bars? Anyways, as you know by now, Y2K was received poorly by fans and critics. Anthony Fantano gave it a 2 to 4 out of 10, which many thought was too high, while saying that Ice isn't capable of making albums and all she's good for is making singles.
I feel like Ice Spice lacks the capacity and the ability to make a good record. Really, to me on the surface, it reads more like a lack of effort than anything. Something she had to ceremoniously go through the motions of in order to get back to focusing on what actually brings her success and attention, and that would be singles.
Anyways, the album ended up selling only 28,000 albums in its first week, which isn't horrible, but remember everything Ice had done until she released this album. She collaborated with Nicki Minaj and Taylor Swift, she had hundreds of millions of views and streams, and she was supposed to be one of the biggest female hip-hop rising stars of her generation. So to only sell 28,000 albums was massively underwhelming for someone like her. Unfortunately, her online streams also dipped following the release of her album, despite her having more material for fans to listen to. In 2023, Ice Spice had over 45 million monthly listeners on Spotify. However, in 2024, that number dropped to only 15 million. I guess people lost interest when Ice kept referring to herself as Miss Poopy in her album. However, Ice remained optimistic. In regards to her album numbers, she thanked her fans for considering her debut album, as underwhelming as it was, as it still sold more than her EP, writing, "Like did 15K, so thank you to everyone who supported me, and thank you to all the new supporters." But at the end of the day, one flop isn't the end of the world. Anybody can bounce back from that. But rather than the focus being on her music, instead, Ice Spice found herself in more controversy, this time, once again with her ex-best friend, Cleo. To most, Cleo was just a TikTok influencer who also released a couple of songs. However, she and Ice never collaborated or played shows together. The only time Cleo got involved in Ice's music career was when she was featured in a couple of her music videos. But that all changed during Ice's Y2K tour. You see, Ice invited Cleo to open for her last minute, which took Cleo aback since, as I said earlier, the two had never collaborated or performed together before that.
So the ending of July, I get a call from Ice very early in the morning. "Cleo, come on tour with me. I miss you. Come." She's like, "No, I want you to perform." And I gagged. "You want me to perform?" She ain't never, ever brought me out on stage.
Cleo initially had doubts about whether she could join the tour, but she eventually agreed because she thought this was Ice's attempt to be a good friend to her and to give her an opportunity. She was told she wouldn't get paid, but her accommodations such as hotels, food, and everything else would be taken care of.
"Nothing, you're gonna be with me. You're good, you're gonna be with me." So I was like, okay, everything is handled. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna make the best out of it. I'm gonna make the absolute best out of it. I don't have no dances or nothing. I'm just gonna go out there and do what I can do.
However, when the tour began, that's not exactly what happened.
And I'm just like, wait, why don't I have that? I didn't have a room. I was told I was gonna be with her, but I didn't have a room. No room for me backstage at all. I was in her dressing room. I didn't have no rider. I was with her.
You see, she had to pay for her own hotel rooms, and since Ice Spice was a major hip-hop star at this point, they were staying at all 5-star hotels, which meant Cleo had to pay for a lot of accommodation just to stay on that tour.
But on top of that, I didn't even know that I was paying for hotel rooms because they're staying at five-star hotel rooms every place. Her label's covering everything. Label, everything's covered. You know what I'm saying? I'm an independent artist. Why would I come on this tour knowing that I had one day to prepare? Now I'm gonna have to pay for 5-star hotels in every city. This is not something that I signed up for.
To make things even worse, Cleo wasn't even given a proper dressing room. Whenever she had to change outfits before going on stage, she was directed to a regular restroom.
They'll give me like a bathroom. The bathroom that everybody's using. They'll give me the bathroom and say, well, you can get dressed inside this bathroom right here.
But that's not all. She even had to pay for her own food during the trip, which is bad on its own considering she was promised accommodation. But the worst part was, one time, Ice and her team went to a steakhouse for dinner and they purposely left Cleo out, as well as a couple of people that Cleo had befriended during the tour.
Everybody went to a steakhouse and left me, the hairstylist, and the makeup artist. Everybody went to go get a bite, steak, mash, cream corn, spinach. And we didn't have anything. We didn't eat at all. We're trying to figure out how to get a McDonald's, and y'all all ate already? Nobody mentioned it.
It's almost as if Ice went out of her way to make things difficult for Cleo during the tour. What's worse is that she didn't even receive that much spotlight during it. Her name wasn't a part of the bill, and her set began before the event was even scheduled to start. In other words, Ice's actions were showing that she did not care about Cleo one bit.
The bill, it didn't even have my name on it. Like, just about nobody knew I was coming on tour. It was like a special guest. Online says the show starts at 8. It would even say 9 sometimes. And guess what time I was going on? At 7:30, 7:45. I was going on before the show starts. So that was kind of weird in itself.
Of course, after these accusations came out, Ice's camp started to speak out. One person who defended Cleo was Ice's stylist, who hopped on social media to back up everything Cleo said. But then another stylist said that the guy that backed Cleo wasn't even a part of the team, which made it even more confusing. On the other hand, Ice Spice's manager, James Jr., also backed Ice. On Twitter, he blamed Cleo's management, saying, "My team spoke to the artist's manager this morning, and the artist's manager said he blames himself because he pushed his client to stay because it was a great opportunity. But he knows his client is 100% wrong. The manager realized his client didn't have the financial backing to be on the tour." He then continued his point by saying, "This is what happens when an artist's team doesn't manage their artist's expectations when an opportunity comes in front of them. If you're not prepared for an opportunity and your team isn't properly advancing then, it's on them, not on us offering the opportunity." James also said that Cleo was being entitled and egotistical, and that she was being ungrateful. He also said that as an opener, she or her team should invest in her. You have to invest in yourself, aka pay expenses if need be for the opportunity. It's corny. Sometimes someone gives you an opportunity and this is the thanks the person gets. Openers don't have the same things headliners have. The entitlement and ego is crazy. So clearly, James had a point. Openers do not get the same level of treatment as headliners. However, it should be noted that according to Cleo, Ice promised her accommodation. Eventually, Ice also spoke on this matter, and of course, she took her side.
That's what the fuck I get for trying to be a good person. It's whatever, bro. Honestly, like, you know, that's not gonna stop me from still trying to be a good person. Like, I'm gonna always help the next person out, like, and that's really my fault for real. Because
Ice also mirrored her manager's sentiments, saying Cleo was being entitled and that she was just trying to help her out since her music career wasn't doing too well.
When all I did was share my stage with you, when I didn't even have to do that, you got less than 10,000 listeners and I'm sharing my stage with you and you feeling so entitled, like you thinking that my peoples that work for me is supposed to work for you too. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like,
there was even this weird tangent where she called Cleo a vacuum for eating too much.
You not gonna tell the people how we was at an Italian restaurant and you ate so much food, you vacuum, that the server was like, where did the food go? Like, stop it right now. You talking about some...
And even if that were true, it doesn't really justify not bringing her along to dinner. So no matter whose side you're on here, considering Ice's career was already on a downward slope at this point, this controversy didn't help her case at all. It made her look like a terrible friend and a brat, and a lot of people even speculated that she never wanted Cleo there. Some said that the only reason she brought her on was that so she could have a token black friend and for damage control after Ice fell out with Baby Storm. And Cleo thought the same as well.
And this is things that I realized after the fact. I told y'all, I really thought that she was trying to make it up, but it wasn't a make-up matter. It was her trying to clean up everything that was going on with her, and let's add Cleo to the tour so people think that I'm a good friend. So people think that I give opportunities to her and I'm nice.
And the fallout was awful for Ice. Despite her explanation, Ice's career continued to spiral downwards, and many fans stopped supporting Ice due to a loss of respect for her. But Cleo wasn't the only person Ice beefed with on her way down from superstardom. She also beefed with some major names in the industry, one of her most prominent beefs recently being with Lotto. This beef apparently started when Lotto posted a snippet of an upcoming song on TikTok that showed a video of Ice Spice in the background, but for whatever reason, Ice took this as shade.
Because the thing is, for me, why am I seeing that I'm in the back of your weak ass snippet? Like, that's why I was confused.
Oh, literally, like,
so I was like, wait a second, that's me? So I'm like, okay, since we're talking about me, let's talk about me. And I dropped that. It was really...
So apparently, Ice Spice's song, Think You the was apparently a diss towards Lotto. She's the person who wasn't even the fart that Ice was alluding to. However, this beef flew under everyone's radar, since virtually no one cared for it. Lotto didn't even care enough to respond to this track. But if beefing with the queen of rap, Nicki Minaj, was enough, Ice also allegedly dissed Cardi B in her latest album, on the track titled BB Belt. In the following lines, Ice apparently trashed Cardi for undergoing surgery and even hinted that her man, Offset, had been hitting her phone. Think she pretty, but she changing her face? Damn, falling behind like, pick up your pace. It was funny till I took her place. Her man calling, but I'd be like, who this? Fans online quickly realized that Ice was taking shots at Cardi. Podcaster Armand Wiggins said, "Girl, Ice Spice is whacking Cardi B in this album." And how people figured that out of all the women in the music business, Ice was talking about Cardi B is beyond me. But regardless, Cardi didn't take these alleged shots lightly. She took to Twitter to tell everyone that she was gonna fire back at her ops in her coming album. These women have absolutely lost their mind. I'm getting all my licks back on my album, on each of you. Now, it should be noted that Ice never named Cardi directly, but hey, at least she got a little bit of publicity. Unfortunately for Ice though, her beefs weren't the only thing responsible for her demise as an artist. Little did she know, her very own appearance, the factor that arguably made her popular in the first place, also had a hand in her eventual downfall. Now, it's no secret that most of Ice Spice's most loyal fans, who have remained with her up until today, only follow her because of her appearance. Recently, however, Ice lost even that, because people started realizing that she lost a significant amount of weight. In fact, her weight loss was so drastic and quick that a lot of fans thought that she was on Ozempic, to which Ice Spice even had to dismiss these claims, uploading a video of her working out. She even hopped on Twitter to say that she never even heard of Ozempic, saying, "I actually came on here to talk about that real quick. I wish I'll never learn the word Ozempic. That's one thing I wish. Oh my god, what even is Ozempic? Genuinely, what is that?" She then continued to explain that her sudden weight loss was caused by healthy eating, working out, and being on tour. You lazy woman ever heard of a gym? It's called a gym. It's called eating healthy. It's called being on tour. Like, what the hell? Maybe if I was sitting at home all day, it'd be easier to stay big. All in all, Ozempic or not, Ice Spice's image drastically changed, and as terrible as it sounds, it was very important for her success. Unfortunately, she didn't realize it. Granted, she isn't alone in this approach, as many female rappers in the industry have leveraged their looks and sexuality as a key part of their artistry, just as Coi Leray has done with her career. Coi's music and rap image are very much synonymous with the typical female rapper. Despite the name of her debut album, Trendsetter, Coi has been more of a trend follower for most of her career. Her sound and look resemble that of female rappers that came before her, such as Doja Cat, Nicki Minaj, and Megan Thee Stallion, just to name a few. That said, Coi has been hated by a significant portion of the rap community because to many, she represents the bad side of female hip-hop. For example, some fans believe that she's one of the reasons why people hate female rap. Instagram thoughts turned rappers. And see, this was Coi Leray's first fault, as many believe that she's a representation of female rappers who are known for showing their bodies off before talent. What's worse is that people don't just say it for the sake of saying it. There was an event that highlighted just how bad Coi Leray was at rapping. You see, in 2021, Coi Leray was included in XXL's annual freshman class along with hip-hop rising stars like 42 Dugg, Ian Dior, Pooh Shiesty, and DDG. Like every year, XXL also released a cypher in which the rappers from the class showcased their freestyle skills. And of all the rappers in that class, Coi Leray had the worst verse by far. And when she was out of things to say, she just started twerking in the middle of the cypher.
Yeah, let's go.
As you can imagine, the reception of the cypher, most particularly with Coi's verse, was atrocious. One comment, which had over 42,000 likes, said, "Real talk, I thought Coi's verse was gonna be trashed, but if you listen to what she's saying, she's actually spitting some garbage." Another commented on how Coi just started twerking to save her verse. Coi Leray had a twerk so everyone would forget she just took Lil Mosey's trophy for the worst cypher. So how did Coi Leray even get popular in the first place if her music was so bad? There's no way she just got popular for twerking, right? I mean, that's Ice Spice. Well, to many, it's crazy how Coi Leray seemed to be set up to succeed from the beginning. For example, she started releasing music on SoundCloud in 2018, and in the same year, she was already a featured artist on Ski Mask the Slump God's Save the Day, which was included in the soundtrack album for the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. From there, Coi released a number of tracks from 2019 to 2021, including No More Parties, which became viral on TikTok, and her first song to debut on the Billboard Hot 100, and her fame only rose from there. She also got the chance to collaborate with a number of mainstream artists, including Lil Durk, Tyga, Kodak Black, and Nicki Minaj, just to name a few. Obviously, not every rapper gets this kind of opportunity to almost have the industry back you by pairing you with some of the biggest names in hip-hop when you're only starting out. And because of that, Coi Leray was able to attain success in the music industry in a very short amount of time.
Congrats on everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've only been doing it a pretty short time as well.
Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
Hey, sometimes it's just meant to be.
You see, the daughter of Benzino, a rapper, record producer, and most notably, the founder of Source Magazine, a popular hip-hop magazine back in the late 90s, which was quickly dubbed as the Bible of hip-hop. Benzino's connections to the music industry alone could have been a major factor in Coi's early rise in hip-hop. Benzino himself said that he did everything to give his father a good life. Coi had everything she wanted. I was flying Coi to meet me every summer, every spring, she was in Miami, I got her in a movie, every Christmas, Thanksgiving, she's with me, Benzino said in an Instagram post. And although he didn't outright say it, It's likely that Benzino helped his daughter get a start in the music industry. However, in Coi's perspective, these facts weren't true at all. In fact, most of the time, when Coi talks about her father, she talks about how much he let her and her family down. In the song No More Parties, Coi trashed Benzino with the lines, "My daddy let me down, but I promise you, I won't let up. I want to say, F that man, but this shit won't make me better." Coi also claims that she's experienced hardships growing up living with her mom, even though her father was relatively rich.
So when I moved with my mom, things were different. You know, food stamps, having to work at 16, finding a job. I dropped out 10th grade, just really had to just figure life out, you know, and it also humbled me.
Benzino, though, claimed that her daughter had a very privileged childhood. According to Benzino, Coi was raised in a mansion and had everything she asked for. But Coi insisted that her father eventually became broke after the source failed, which is why she, her mom, and her brothers had to fend for themselves.
But that's the problem. Everybody thinks it's like a silver spoon situation. My dad lost the source when I was like 9, bro. Like once it was gone, I was old enough to understand life. And it was gone after that. Like reality hit, we're broke and we're figuring things out, you feel me?
But then again, she also said that her father gifted her a Jeep Wrangler in 2013 when she was 16 years old, which means her father bought her a brand new Jeep Wrangler the year it was released.
My dad had got me my first car. My first car was a Jeep Wrangler, 2013. It was all black. It was the soft top. I was able to drop the top on these. I was in Bergen County, I was lit. I'm telling you, I was young as hell, I was lit. But then I had lost the car, so I ended up going into a little Toyota Corolla.
And while a Jeep Wrangler is far from a luxury vehicle, that also meant Benzino was far from broke. And the fact that Coi was so nonchalant about the fact that she lost her Jeep like it was some ordinary toy speaks volumes about her privilege, at least the fans. So what really was it? Did she struggle growing up or not? Well, it's highly possible that Coi is downplaying how privileged her upbringing was to seem more relatable to the hip-hop community.
I'm not popping out till I got a couple M's sitting right in my bank account. And my family depending on me. I'm the one that's gonna make it out.
But coming from her, the lines just sound inauthentic. Like she's trying to prove to people that she's poorer than she was to garner sympathy points. Unfortunately for Coi, authenticity is one of the biggest factors that respected rappers have. However, authenticity wasn't the only one of Coi's problems. If there's one thing the rap community doesn't like when it comes to rappers, it's those who don't write their own verses. Hip-hop isn't like pop music, where it's okay for artists to perform songs they don't write. And unfortunately, there's speculations that Coi Leray doesn't create her own songs at all. What's crazy is that Coi herself made this known to the public when she talked about it in a No Jumper podcast.
You know, I was that type of person, like, I don't need no writer. But, you know, I'm like, yo, whatever it is y'all want me to do, you want me to work with writers, you want me to do this, that, and third, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. I'm proud. I'm proud of the writers.
In hip-hop, that's a crazy thing to admit to when you're a rapper because, again, working with writers has been completely normalized for pop artists, but that's not how things work in rap. Coi being proud of having writers work on a track is another example of how little she knows or cares about hip-hop culture and why people continue to attack her for being a terrible representation of a female rapper. But guess what? It gets even worse, because although she already admitted to working with writers, for whatever reason, she lied about writing a song named Blick Blick with the artist who was featured on the song, Nicki Minaj, straight to her face. In an Instagram live, Nicki asked Coi how she wrote the song.
Now, what is your process like? How long did it take you to come up with the hook? Did you do the hook first, or did you just start rapping at the top of the beat and then just went into the hook?
Just did the hook first and then the verse. I don't know, it depends. Like when I'm in the studio, like whatever vibe, I'll get some little drink.
However, what she didn't expect was to get exposed so easily, because in 2022, Latto, another female rapper, had 130 of her unreleased songs leak online. And while this is very sad for Latto, it was also unfortunate for Coi because one of Latto's unreleased songs was her own version of Blick Blick. This means, contrary to what Coi claimed, she didn't write Blick Blick at all. Someone else wrote it, it was given to Latto, she rejected it, and then it was given to Coi. So when people found out that Coi didn't write one of her most popular tracks, the backlash was strong. So she hopped on Instagram Live to explain the situation.
No More Parties, fucking Twinning Them, Big Purr, Involved, I my whole album. I mean, every single feature written by me. So I know my pen game is super amazing.
Not as amazing as that cypher though. On the other hand, she didn't even address the Blick Blick issue, but she did take the time to shout out some amazing writers who are presumably the writers who have worked for her.
But I also want to say shout out to some amazing writers like Kane, A1, Aaron, Felly, Jazzy, Big A, Taylor, Skeez, Chip,
Fresh, and there's so many more people.
So she must have a lot of ghostwriters working for her, huh? And in a bizarre twist, instead of explaining why she lied to Nicki Minaj, of all people, about writing Blick Blick, she instead talked about how pop music creates hit songs.
What you guys need to understand is timeless music is not created. Like, you can't create it by yourself. I mean, you can, because a lot of people do.
A lot of people do, just not her. And it looked like she was completely missing the point. See, she wasn't a pop artist.
For example, Michael Jackson Thriller. That was written by Rod Temperton. He's a British man. Soulful Brother. Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, written by Dolly Parton. Big record, one of the biggest records in the world. Again, icon. The Dream, wrote Umbrella, Rihanna. Single Ladies, Beyonce.
She was in hip hop. Again, hip hop doesn't operate like this. Although most female rappers who blow up are typically from the United States, this next rapper came all the way from Australia. By the age of 16, Iggy had already made a life-changing decision to leave Australia behind. Her mom allowed her to drop out of high school since she was skipping school so much, and she did it.
Said to me, you're not gonna pass your grade, but if you do online school, you could be exempt from the fact you've skipped so much.
And from the very start, Iggy faced backlash. Being white, female, and a foreign rapper made her journey in hip-hop extremely difficult. But her debut wasn't without its wins. Co-signed by Southern hip-hop legend T.I., Iggy gained initial credibility. However, her skills as a rapper were widely criticized. As one collaborator put it, "It isn't like when you meet an artist and they're a few songs deep. It's like, oh no, you really have to learn how to rap." That's how they described her. The collaborator added that Iggy's rise was less about talent and more about her marketability, driven by a relentless desire to prove her haters wrong. And this thinking quickly backfired. Literally everybody told her she would never be a rapper, so it became something to prove, in a way that, to me, was very detrimental. She wanted people to be like, yes, Iggy the MC. You see, her first major controversy started in 2012 with the remix of Kendrick Lamar's Look Out for Detox. Iggy's lyrics included the line,
"Finish slime with the fire marks. When it really starts, I'm a runaway slave." Man.
Which automatically triggered immediate backlash. Of course, Iggy issued a lengthy apology, arguing that her goal with the line was to highlight historical mastery. She began by acknowledging that her lyric caused hurt and admitting that it was careless, writing, "Dear world, I'm writing you today to address a lyric I said a few months ago in one of my songs that I feel has been used to unfairly slander my character and paint me as a racist person." She argued that it was a modified take on Lamar's original line. Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite artists, and I loved his song Look Out for Detox so much I decided to do my own version of it last year. The lyrics I wrote follow the original version very closely. One lyric in particular has offended a lot of people, and for that I apologize. But while Iggy tried to clear her name, saying, "This is a metaphoric take on an originally literal lyric, and I was never trying to say that I'm a owner." However, the fallout was fast and severe. The aftermath of the controversy extended beyond the internet. For many, this highlighted Iggy's reputation as an outsider in the genre. Her efforts and explanation failed to resonate with a large segment of the hip-hop community. In other words, Iggy Azalea got cancelled, big time. Many of her haters and critics labeled her as tone-deaf and racially insensitive, and it left a mark that would never leave her career. However, she did apologize, so for the time being, things were alright. But as Iggy rose in hip-hop, so did the hatred. For example, in 2014, Nicki Minaj subtly took shots at her during the BET Awards, saying that,
"My point is, what I want the world to know about Nicki Minaj is when you hear Nicki Minaj spit, Nicki Minaj wrote it." Shade.
And even though Nicki didn't really name drop anyone, the industry and fans knew that the shade was directed at Iggy, whose music was largely producer driven. However, just because she was getting dissed by her peers doesn't mean that that year was entirely bad. That year, Iggy dropped Fancy with Charli XCX, a smash hit that sits at over 1 billion views on YouTube today. However, Iggy still lacked the cultural credibility to sustain her position. See, even at the height of her career, Iggy Azalea couldn't sell tickets for her tour. At first, it was just postponed. A spokesperson from Def Jam told Billboard, "It's important to Iggy that she delivers the show that she envisioned to share with her fans, and that requires more time and development." However, it was soon also cancelled. Live Nation, the tour company, released a statement saying, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, Iggy Azalea's The Bad Girls Tour has been cancelled." However, fans and critics weren't convinced. Many speculated that they cancelled the Great Escape Tour in 2015 due to low ticket sales, destroying her reputation even more as a headliner and an artist. So, in an attempt to clean up the PR mess, Someone from Iggy's team said this: "As we were not able to fill the support slots on the tour in fall, due to so many artists already having commitments and working this summer, we had not advertised or promoted the new show since last winter. However, everyone knew this was just an excuse." So it looked like Iggy's downfall was imminent, and it didn't help her case when she subtly dissed one of pop's biggest stars, Britney Spears. According to Iggy, her collaborations with Britney could have been better promoted. Unfortunately, fans then started to accuse her of shading the icon. Thing is, according to Iggy, there was no beef between them, and the media was the one instigating the conflict. She wrote, "I'm honestly not surprised, but still really saddened that the media is trying to create a quote-unquote beef between @Britney Spears and myself. According to Iggy, she and Britney were still friends. We remain friends and I haven't said anything negative at all about her. Does wishing we had promoted a single more make me the bad guy?" She also added that the media is partially at fault for craving women to fight. "I feel like the media wants women in music to get out and mud wrestle each other. As a woman, I take great offense." She further clarified, "No one is throwing shade or shots at either side of the table. That girl is my friend and I support her 100%. But by then, Iggy Azalea was as good as gone from the rap game. She tried to make a comeback in 2018, featuring Megan Thee Stallion and Cupcake as openers for her, but unfortunately for Iggy, it was the same old story since once again, the tour was cancelled due to poor ticket sales, her second failed tour in 3 years. Once again, trying to protect her name, she deflected the blame to others, saying it wasn't her fault that the tour got cancelled, writing, "Believe me, I was really excited for this tour, and I'm genuinely disappointed it can't happen this year. The choice was out of my hands and not my call to make. I hope I will get to see you all in person one day. I love you." But by then, the industry had already abandoned her. Without her label's support or a dedicated fanbase, her inability to connect with hip-hop audiences became more difficult. Then, she became a laughing stock. For instance, in 2015, at the Soul Train Awards, Erykah Badu said,
Oh, 1 second, I'm sorry, y'all. Yes. Who is this? Iggy Azalea. Yeah, hey. Oh, no, you can come, because what you're doing is definitely not rap.
And with so many controversies surrounding her brand, it was nearly impossible for her to make a comeback. And so, her name has now faded into obscurity. But did Iggy Azalea ever truly belong in hip-hop, or was her fall inevitable from the moment she entered the game? While Iggy left her country in pursuit of stardom in America, this next rapper also left her TV show success behind to focus entirely on her music. After 2 seasons on Love and Hip Hop, Cardi B made the decision to leave the show and focus entirely on music. And her hard work finally paid off when she caught the attention of Atlantic Records. So Cardi was poised for a breakthrough with Atlantic backing her and momentum on her side. But could she deliver a hit to solidify her place in hip hop? Well, fortunately, Cardi was able to drop her biggest song ever, Bodak Yellow. The song became the longest running #1 single by a solo female rapper in history. So at that point, Cardi had proven that she could dominate the charts. However, as her fame continued to grow, controversies followed. So what happens when the industry questions your credibility?
If I don't entertain you, then you don't. You shouldn't care. You should move on with your life.
However, the flaws in her image began to show quickly. While Bodak Yellow became a massive success, it also had its fair share of controversy, because eventually the lack of talent started to show. Cardi B's inability to freestyle, which is a must-have skill in the genre, and her admission that she didn't write the song led to large criticism. And when people found out that Invasion of Privacy relied heavily on ghostwriters, with every track listing multiple contributors, everything almost fell apart then and there. Because remember, in hip-hop, having a ghostwriter is a huge sin, since writing your own lyrics shows the authenticity and artistry that many believe rap demands. But what was kind of weird was Cardi B's openness about using ghostwriters that started heated debates about the standards in hip-hop, especially for female rappers. You see, historically, lyricism and self-expression have been the cornerstones of rap. However, Cardi blatantly disregarded these values, stating,
I like to make money. I don't really give a about being lyrical. I don't give a about this and that. If that work for me, I don't care. I like to make that's gonna make me money. I like to make gonna climb me off on the charts.
Unfortunately, her ghostwriting issues were still not over. Just recently, one of her ex-producers and ghostwriters finally voiced out his frustrations over the lack of payment for his past work. Swift on Demand, Cardi's ex-producer, revealed that her ghostwriter rumors were true. According to Swift, he claimed that he had been pivotal in the tracks that helped Cardi secure a record deal with Atlantic Records long before her breakout single, Bodak Yellow. In an Instagram video Swift posted, he summarized his contributions to Cardi's success. Initially, he was very suspicious as to why Atlantic Records signed Cardi months before Bodak Yellow existed.
If she got signed in 2017, Bodak came out later that year, right? How did she get signed to Atlantic? What music did Atlantic listen to that gave her a deal?
According to him, the record label evaluated tracks from her second mixtape, Gangster Music Volume 2, a project where he contributed as a producer and a writer.
She got signed in the middle of her second mixtape. We ain't even finished this shit, and they signed. So tell me, how Swift don't have nothing to do with it?
To make matters worse, He argued that his work was instrumental in securing an advance for Cardi.
Her deal was unheard of at that time. Unheard of. You know what I'm trying to say? 500K up front type shit. Yeah, 500K up front. You know what I'm trying to say?
However, he received none of the payouts.
You know how much I got out of that? And this is off of stuff that I produced. I wrote. Zero. Everybody bust that down.
Instead of airing it out publicly during that time, he chose to stay quiet, continuing to produce and write songs in hopes that his loyalty would eventually pay off.
I ain't gonna worry about no payments right now. I'm gonna just keep writing these songs. I'm gonna keep writing the beats. Cause I see that the team is winning, and I know that's gonna be me one day. So I'm like, yo, you know what? Nah, let me just keep going. Let me keep pushing.
But of course, this is just one side. Now, let's take a look at Cardi's side of the story. During a Twitter Spaces rant, she labeled the claims as misleading and self-absorbed.
Shut the up. Like, you believe everything that you see on the internet. You see me, I haven't even been working for a whole year, and you out here believing what the see on the internet. Have you seen me working for a whole year?
Cardi explained that she had spent nearly $1 million to exit a toxic management deal with KSR, the company Swift had worked under. In order for me to get out of that contract with my old label KSR, I literally spent almost $1 million in litigation. I ended up giving this man $11 million just so he wouldn't be a part of my second, third, and fourth albums. She further revealed that she had paid KSR $11 million to ensure that her former management wouldn't have the rights to her future albums. Cardi believed that Swift's financial problems were a result of her contract with KSR, not of her personal choices. Furthermore, her frustration boiled over as she explained that she too was having a hard time paying bills, saying,
"Have you been seeing me make a show? So why the talking about all I see when I see this shit with you? You told me you was gonna help me. Shut up! I had to feed all my 3 kids. I have big bills. Nobody helped me with but myself. So shut the up!"
And she didn't stop there. Cardi also accused Swift of chasing clout by stirring up drama years after they had stopped working together. According to Cardi, these accusations were baseless, and her main financial focus was to support her family, protect their work, solid contracts. But of course, this wasn't all. In recent years, Cardi B's public life has taken a series of turns. She was once hailed as a feminist icon who championed women's empowerment through her lyrics and unapologetic sexuality, but now Cardi's stance seemed to have taken a bitter turn. For example, she became irritated and frustrated by the criticism of her female fans. One time, she got so mad that she even publicly renounced her feminist identity, stating,
"I am not a feminist no more. You wanna know why? Because you could get on social media and your hardest critics is women. Women are always out here looking for ways to talk shit about other women. It's like the women worst enemies are women. And y'all like to be talking about that it's men. No, it be y'all, bitch."
In a separate video, Cardi pointed out what she saw as contradictions in the way people view relationships and financial responsibilities.
This is like really controversial, right?
Cool.
I feel like it's very controversial when be like, oh, I don't go 50-50, but it's like, all right.
She voiced out her frustrations with the online narrative that promotes a one-sided dynamic.
Shouldn't that really be having people f***ed up from like real reality type shit? So it's like, all right.
She argued that a man shouldn't bear the financial burden of a relationship while the woman contributes little in return.
So your mom and dad used to work every single day, right? Mm-hmm. So your mom and dad used to work every single day so your mom could save her money and buy purses and your dad just pay all the bills. That's not how it works.
And to be more direct to her statements, Cardi then admitted that she no longer identifies as a feminist. According to her, there's a huge disconnect between real life and modern feminist ideals.
I'm saying I'm not a feminist anymore because it's like, sometimes it's like, y'all been living in the real world.
Right.
Y'all not living there.
A lot of fans were turned off by her comments, and her declaration of a quote-unquote villain era only deepened the divide.
This is my villain era because when I be nice, y'all still talk shit. There's a lot of celebrities that be nice as and y'all still be talking about them. So it's like, you know what? Y'all already made up an image of me that I'm a super evil, whatever the evil bitch, whatever the.
For many, it felt like she was doubling down on the qualities that had already made her image in hip-hop.
Yeah, I'm gonna be that because y'all is getting me on my nerves.
However, was this villain arc genuine? Or was it a defense mechanism in response to an industry and fan base that never fully accepted her? And more importantly, how did Cardi go from hip-hop's golden girl to a pile of controversies and to the point where she was struggling to maintain her relevance? Well, Cardi's fall-off didn't end with debates about her authenticity and artistry. On the other hand, fans grew increasingly impatient as years passed without a follow-up to her debut album. And it didn't help that Cardi repeatedly teased the release of new music only to push back deadlines and offer excuses. She got so frustrated that she would even call her fans the worst fan base ever for pressuring her. But it wasn't always like this. When she was just getting started, she explained that it took her time to figure out her way in the music industry.
I didn't even really was thinking about an album because I never really knew the importance of it. I always thought that it was like a mixtape.
She claimed that she didn't initially understand the hype about albums, but she was willing to do it for her fans.
But supposedly it's not like a mixtape. It's like something that is a big deal. So it's like it gotta come up beautifully and perfect because I don't want to disappoint my fans.
And didn't help when her singles continued to fail to meet expectations. Eventually, she would even post on social media suggesting that she was scared to drop. But that wasn't all. Another instance where Cardi talked trash to her fans came when she first broke up with Offset. Back in 2023, she announced that she was single, saying,
I've been single for a minute now, but I have been afraid to not afraid, I just don't know how to tell the world. But I feel like,
according to Cardi, she wanted a fresh new start for the year, stating,
so I wanna start 2024 fresh, open. I don't know, I'm curious for a new life, for a new beginning.
However, her fans wondered whether Cardi was truly single or if she was back with her ex, Offset, who the majority would agree was pretty toxic to each other. And people online were quick to find dirt. There were rumors that the couple was seen together and it went viral on social media, but Cardi didn't appreciate this. On a Twitter live, she expressed her annoyance to her fanbase again, saying,
Leave me the alone! Shut the up! Stupid mother! I'm about to unfollow all of y'all because that's all I see. Y'all my timeline.
She told her fans that they should just wait for a personal announcement regarding this type of news.
I'm searching my name. I'm trying to see anybody else talk. Nobody is talking but y'all. So shut the up. All over my shut up. Y'all heard something out of my mouth?
Mind you, she's tongued to her fans at this moment.
Y'all heard that I'm back with it out of my mouth? No. It's annoying. For 3 days, y'all been doing the same. Did I say I was back together with somebody? Did I say that? Did I heard that?
With all this toxicity, was getting back with Offset really worth it? And to be honest, the first time they got together wasn't great either. Even before the birth of their first child in 2018, accusations of infidelity tarnished their relationship.
Me and my baby dad, we were in very bad terms. I still called him and I was like, hey, I'm pregnant. And we kind of laughed about it because it's like, what the f? That's so random.
Despite these challenges, fans and critics believed that their bond might withstand all these rumors. However, what followed was a pattern of betrayal, public arguments, and reconciliations. You see, later on, Offset did admit that he did cheat on Cardi, saying that he was immature and that their relationship lacked communication.
When I did do that, I was in a different space. I was young, I had just got married. I'm getting a lot of money. Really was communication. We got married and then our communication was good, but it wasn't I wasn't saying my wants and needs and vice versa.
He described their early marriage as chaotic, acknowledging his mistakes, but often falling short of real accountability. Cardi, on the other hand, showed loyalty, still trying to work through the issues despite the continuous cheating. And because of this, she stayed in the relationship long after many thought she should leave. Unfortunately, the cracks continued to widen. In 2023, Offset publicly accused Cardi of infidelity on Instagram, writing, "My wife messed with another man on me, gang. Y'all know how I come." However, he later admitted to adding some information out of frustration. To me, this incident perfectly summarized the toxicity of the relationship. And by 2024, Cardi had finally had enough as she filed for divorce for the final time. But was Cardi's relationship with Offset the sole reason behind her struggles, or is there a larger issue waiting to be uncovered? Well, there actually was. You see, if the ghostwriting claims and how she treated her fans weren't damaging enough, allegations of Payola caused even more damage to her credibility. If you don't know, Payola is the practice of bribing someone to use their influence or position to promote a particular product of interest. In the music industry, it means paying radio stations to play a song illegally. You see, DJ Funkmaster Flex, a well-known rapper and DJ in hip-hop, has always been a critic of Cardi B. He would even openly say that Cardi isn't that good of a rapper, saying,
I do think Cardi B's a terrible rapper, my I just do, man. Sometimes I just want to tell you, I do, mother.
You let it weight off your shoulders just now.
Yes!
He argued that even though Cardi's a good entertainer, that didn't mean it would translate into rapping skills.
An amazing entertainer. I love her on social media. I love the way she talks about a subject. I like her whole swag. I like everything. She's a terrible rapper, man.
And he didn't shy away from exposing her ghostwriters.
Yeah, all right, though. Because if somebody wrote it, those aren't good bars. So somebody sold you bad bars. Woo! There's nobody gonna say it.
However, DJ Funk Flex didn't stop there. He also accused Cardi's team of using Payola to inflate her early success, posting on Instagram saying, "I met Cardi and her management and I respected his and Cardi's hustle." But let's be clear, Cardi's team and many other artists in the beginning of their career pay DJs to play records and say that they are hot. Since I never took a penny from a rapper, I'm not scared to speak on it. I have emails I've gotten from labels over the years with names and figures. While Cardi denied the allegations, her explanation did little to sway public opinion. So for many hip-hop fans, this made it impossible to see her as a legitimate rapper. And this accusation became the fuel for Cardi's biggest rival, Nicki Minaj, whose beef became Cardi's next major pitfall.
She has built her career off of sympathy and payola.
So what started this beef? Well, the origins of their beef are a mystery. Some trace it back to 2017 when Nicki name-dropped Cardi's now husband, Offset, in Katy Perry's song Swish Swish. Others believe it started when Cardi appeared during Remy Ma's Summer Jam performance just before Remy dissed Nicki with each other. While both women initially avoided directly addressing any tension, their fans were quick to connect the dots. Again, the detectives of social media were quick to do their jobs. You see, while Nicki dismissed early rumors, clarifying that no lines in her songs targeted Cardi, even as Cardi's Bodak Yellow dominated the charts. However, the narrative shifted when Cardi dropped a verse on G-Eazy's No Limit that hinted at the beef, saying, "Stop with all the subs, I and Jared." When pressed about who the line was aimed at, Cardi deflected, saying,
"On the G-Eazy record, you say, can you stop with all the subs, I ain't Jared." Who was that directed toward?
Oh, well, you know what I'm saying? This is the thing that people, because, you know, people don't understand, though, that I got like beef with 10 just still in the hood, and I still be in the hood.
Despite her downplaying, the industry and fans couldn't resist fueling speculation. But was the tension really all fan-made, or was something deeper happening behind closed doors? Well, things escalated in 2017 when Nicki and Cardi appeared together on the Migos track Motorsport. While the collaboration seemed like a sign of unity, it only intensified the drama, and Cardi would further downplay the beef and blame fans for craving drama, saying,
"If there's something that you could talk it out, you could talk it out, because it's not always rah 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 this, rah 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 that, because we grown, unless you wanna take it to the rah rah this, rah rah that."
And the fans that love chaos would finally get their wish when things finally got heated. In interviews, Cardi claimed that Nicki had altered her verse before the song's release, sparking a flurry of online debate.
When I heard the track,
Right.
her verse was in Finnish. Well, it's not the verse that is on right now.
And of course, Cardi's comments didn't sit well with the barber herself, Nicki, who tearfully expressed her frustration during an April 2018 interview, saying,
The first thing out of your mouth when someone asks you about a Nicki Minaj feature is, "She changed her version of it." Excuse me?
DJ Academics later added fuel to the fire by presenting receipts that Nicki's verse had indeed been changed, further muddying the waters.
Pull up in a space coupe on a link with Marty. I can actually afford to get a pink Bugatti.
In a tweet, Nicki clarified that the changes were requested by Cardi's team, writing, "How can you say someone changed the verse and forget to say Quavo told me to remove my singing part, which I loved, and Atlantic told me to remove your name from my verse per your request. So how were those changes gonna happen if I didn't quote-unquote change my verse? Hashtag Nicki Day, hashtag Chun-Li." But by then, the damage was done. Even a brief, seemingly friendly encounter between the two at the 2018 Met Gala couldn't mask the growing rift. So did Motorsport, their collab, prove that peace was impossible, or were the women just pawns in a larger industry game? Well, by mid-2018, the tension was undeniable. In August, Nicki released her fourth studio album, Queen, and listeners quickly noticed bars on tracks like Ganja Burn and LLC that seemed aimed at Cardi. You gotta have real skill, gotta work for that. If it's really your passion, would you give the world for that? Unlike a lot of these hoes, whether whack or lit, at least I can say I wrote every rap I spit. You know who didn't write every rap they spit? Cardi B. Nicki also criticized the use of payola, implying Cardi's success was propped up by money rather than genuine talent. And surprisingly, Cardi herself admitted to this.
I pay $60,000 so they could, try to play it on the radio.
Nicki argued that she had to work hard to get where she is now, explaining,
I was on Twitter building my fan base, getting a rapport with my fans, booking shows myself, okay? I didn't have all of that shit. I couldn't pay a bunch of people to say they liked me and do all of this shit.
She would also address the brewing feud even more during a Beats One interview, saying,
Cardi and I had an issue, but I guess we do it since you're saying it, and other people are saying it. She may have taken an issue with things that I've said, but I'm not going to bite my tongue. I mean, this is right. You gotta have thick skin.
To which Cardi would respond,
All the love that my fans, that my friends, that everybody shows me is genuine, is beautiful, and that's something that God give me that you can't buy.
And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, things took a turn, one that neither woman could have predicted. their hatred for each other finally erupted at the Harper's Bazaar Icon Party during New York Fashion Week in September of 2018.
Footage of the fight is surfacing. You can see Cardi stumbling across the hallway, held back by her security team.
A chaotic video from the event showed Cardi throwing her shoe during a scuffle with Nicki's team.
Moments later, there's Cardi undoing her shoe, then throwing it at Nicki. Nicki's team kept the shoe as Exhibit A.
Cardi later claimed that Nicki had liked social media comments insulting her parenting and her newborn daughter, Culture. For Cardi, this was the final straw. And the aftermath showed how crazy the brawl was.
Cardi's gown was ripped in the back, exposing her backside. Her bodyguards quickly covered her with what's left of the gown. Cardi left the party with a nasty bump above her left eye. Her shoes were also gone.
So, was this fight the end for Cardi, or was it just another chapter in an industry notorious for its drama? Well, spoiler alert, it was another chapter. You see, Cardi B's past also came back to haunt her. In a resurfaced Instagram live clip, she admitted to robbing men during her old occupation. Of course, this got her into a lot of trouble. Cardi defended her actions as survival tactics during a difficult time in her life, but the admission sparked outrage, which forced her to explain, writing, "Whether or not they were poor choices at the time, I did what I had to do to survive. I never claimed to be perfect or come from a perfect world." Critics likened her actions to those of men she condemned, accusing her of hypocrisy. Cardi, however, maintained that she never glorified these actions in her music, contrasting herself with the artists who openly celebrate violence and crime, adding, "I never glorified the things I brought up in that video. I never even put those things in my music because I'm not proud of it and I feel a responsibility not to glorify it. I made the choices that I did at the time because I had very limited options." But if that didn't work, she would try to garner sympathy by bringing up her past.
I'm going to give the haters exactly what they want, okay? So this is gonna come out of my mouth since they want this so bad for me. Hey everybody, can y'all please stop watching my videos? Can you guys please stop talking about me? Can you guys please stop listening to my music?
She did, though, have a rough upbringing. But was that a valid reason for the continued controversies she's been a part of?
I deserve to be a stripper. My mom don't deserve to live in a crib. My child don't deserve to have a good life. I don't deserve no money. I deserve to be in the Bronx in 450 Woody Crest, apartment 3, some shit I forgot.
She further argued that by doing this, she's making everyone happy.
There y'all go. Yeah, I got it. I said it out my mouth. I hope this made y'all that talk shit about me richer. I hope this shit y'all blow it up. I hope this make y'all happy. I'm just trying to make everybody's dreams come true, even my haters. There you go.
Now, if you've been paying attention, we've been talking about a lot of controversies. However, on April 6th of 2018, Cardi B finally dropped her debut album, Invasion of Privacy, and it made an immediate impact. However, not in a good way. You see, its biggest and most controversial accomplishment came when it won the Grammy for Best Rap Album. Yes, Cardi B beat out heavyweights like Travis Scott, Pusha T, as well as the late Nipsey Hussle and Mac Miller. Of course, this would spark heated debates online. Ariana Grande, Mac's then girlfriend, even tweeted her disappointment, calling it literal bullshit, which she would later clarify as nothing to do with her, good for her, I promise, I'm sorry. For Cardi, the Grammy win seemed to mark the pinnacle of her career, but in hindsight, it also marked the start of her decline. Even as Cardi claimed that she wanted to empower women in hip-hop, she struggled to escape criticism. In an interview with XXL, she argued that the culture is part of the reason that female rappers are going against each other, stating, "I just don't like to be on pace with somebody else. I like running my own time. I like doing things on my own time and my own way. So I really hate when people pit me against each other, because it just makes me feel like I gotta move with them." She further argued that even though she's not dropping music like other female rappers, doesn't mean she fell off, saying, "And I don't like moving like nobody else. Even last year, everybody was putting music out. All the females, Nicki Minaj, Doja Cat, Megan Thee Stallion, and people was just saying, oh, Cardi's over. Everything that I accomplished, people was trying to erase it because new females were out." On the other hand, some fans accuse her of perpetuating over-sexualized tropes that many believed undermine female rappers' respect. Tracks like WAP, her massive hit with Megan Thee Stallion, sparked many debates on whether or not this kind of a track could affect the youth. While some compared her lyrics to Lil' Kim or Foxy Brown's unapologetic boldness, others called her a hypocrite, which is a common theme in this video, by the way. In one famous incident, Cardi celebrated WAP on Instagram only to scramble to turn it off when her daughter walked in. Not a great look. Social media erupted, with critics accusing her of promoting harmful messages for other kids while shielding her own, with one user stating, "So your daughter can't listen to it, but everybody else's daughter can? At I am Cardi B, okay. Exactly what I've been saying, you have an agenda to push with that trash label you're with. Disgusting." As the backlash intensified, Cardi once again pointed out that her main focus was the bag.
First of all, I rap about pussy because she's my best friend, you know what I'm saying? And second of all, it's because it seems like that's what people want to hear. I ain't even gonna front, because let me tell you something.
Cardi explained that when she rapped about other topics, people didn't like it.
When I did Be Careful, people was talking mad shit in the beginning, like, what the is this? This is not what I expected. I expected this, I expected that. So it's like, if that's what people ain't trying to hear, then alright, then I'm gonna start rapping about my pussy again.
So after Invasion of Privacy, fans eagerly waited Cardi's second album. Instead, they got sporadic singles, each met with diminishing returns. Tracks like Up managed to hit the charts, but her subsequent releases faltered. Even collaborations with industry powerhouses like Kanye and Lil Durk in 2022 couldn't get her back into the top 10. Meanwhile, Cardi ventured into acting, launching a makeup line, and even created a non-explicit Odd Future website that reportedly earned her $45 million in a single year. Dang, that's a lot of cash. But for her music fans, these side hustles were distractions from what they really wanted, a new album. And this triggered Cardi even more since she thought that male artists could get away with not releasing music for a long period, saying,
There's male artists, they will go 2 years without putting a song out. And they don't be like, oh, you're irrelevant, it's over for you. Me, I didn't put out songs for 9 months, and it's like, oh, she's irrelevant, she's over, she's a flop.
Cardi would also blame her perfectionism, claiming that she wouldn't release music unless she loved it. Yet this narrative wore thin as the years passed by without substantial output.
We told you that, and I'm like, yo, that type of shit started to get to me, like crushing me, but it's like, I'm not gonna let that shit get to me to the point that I'm gonna put out a song that I'm not really in love with.
But if that didn't work, in a classic Cardi B move, she would again deflect the blame, saying,
this whole time people was making rumors like, oh, she's having a problem with her label is shelving her, her label is tired of her, they're getting more female talent, and it's like, no.
She argued that she had a good relationship with the record label, stating,
they never tired of me, okay? That's one thing. And labels, they don't give, they want you to put music out. Like, that's what they love. They want you to put music out all the time.
However, in September of 2023, she teamed up with Megan Thee Stallion to release her single, Bongos. During this time, Cardi didn't hide from being nervous.
I am so nervous. I feel like I want to like throw up or something, because it's like singles coming out. I feel really good. I feel really confident, but like I'm just so nervous because it's like
She admitted to getting pressured to release her new song, saying,
I've seen you guys complain for months and months and months. Not gonna lie to y'all, like you guys been hurting my feelings, but I understand that you guys been frustrated with me. So I wanted to make sure that I do this right for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
But unfortunately, this drop only highlighted how much her star power had diminished, as it didn't surpass the hype of WAP. However, despite her nerves and claims of catering to fan demands, the song peaked at number 52 on the Spotify charts. Still, fans criticized it as repetitive and uninspired. Even longtime supporters like Joe Budden slammed the track, likening it to manufactured, soulless product, saying,
remember I said all the top artists make songs like a science project, like AI made it? That's what this sounds like.
According to Budden, you could clearly see the motive even when just listening to the beat.
This beat is undeniable because it's already worked. This is a beat that has worked. So we're gonna put two of our biggest women rappers in the world on it, talking their normal shit. But I don't think this song is gonna work at all. I hate this song. I don't think this song's gonna work.
The criticism extended beyond the music. Cardi's repeated delays in releasing a second album, despite promising it since 2019, led to accusations of fear.
Cardi B is afraid, and I'm tired of just nobody saying. Cardi B is scared to come out. It don't take this long to come out. They recently just found every year where she plugged that she was coming, dating back to 2019.
Budden even suggested that she was scared to face the pressure of living up to her debut.
Like 6 different slides in different years of you saying, hey, I have something coming. Even this freestyle was previewed a year ago.
And as fans like Joe Budden criticized her career at that point, Cardi began to lash out even more. She would rant after she released her new song, Enough.
So I'm always working, and I'm hungry. I'm working like it's not even 2017. I'm working like I'm in 2016, and I have something to prove. Y'all is mad at that. This ain't luck. This is work, nigga.
Started denying the Payola accusations again.
I don't gotta pay be on nothing. I'd rather chart low just so I can know what my fans like or not, what they're gonna react or not. But fortunately, I charted high because this one motherfucker want to hear.
Then she would argue that her biggest critic, like Joe Budden, liked her new music.
There's they haven't even been liking my record for a whole year. Even Joe Budden don't even hits me. Even him said that this song was fire. Even him. Why would he lie to me? Why would Joe Budden lie to me? He don't even like me. He didn't like my last record.
If Cardi was unsure of herself, it showed. Her defenses became increasingly erratic, filled with rants and lashing out at fans and peers alike. In one instance, she even threatened legal action against rapper Bia over a diss track, a move widely criticized as uncharacteristic of hip-hop's competitive nature.
Very nasty. It started very nasty, very aggressive. I was coming at her and she was coming at me. And then I called her back because I'm so appalled at the fact that she thinks that I'm copying her or that I'm stealing from her.
She added that she didn't like Bia's whole image, so why would she want to copy her? Saying,
because there's nothing that she do that I like. I don't like her music, I don't like her style, I don't like how she look, I don't like nothing about her. I don't even see the bitch.
However, at this point, fans had seen enough. Because even though Cardi was a huge name in hip-hop, she hadn't contributed enough to the genre to be seen as a higher-tier artist. Even her claims of women empowerment rang hollow as she publicly feuded with other female rappers like Ice Spice. Cardi once championed unity among women in hip-hop, but her recent behavior suggested a shift to defensiveness and bitterness, as she would go in on another rant on Twitter, writing, "These women have absolutely lost their mind. I'm getting all my licks back on my album though. One on each of you B-words." She argued that no one would be able to catch up to her success, stating, "These B-words can't see me in numbers or status. Y'all had way too much time to catch up. Can't see me in money, can't see me in real estate, fashion, and can't see me in person either. I'm not in a rat race with none of you women. I'ma show y'all." By now, people caught on and critics and fans alike knew not to expect new music since Cardi kept focusing on her past achievements. What numbers in 2024? Your new single is doing 99k daily streams, you a flop. And since there's a new generation of female rappers, people began to switch sides. One user said, "The fact that Doja literally clears you in all of what you listed, I don't even need to mention Nicki." So clearly, Cardi is slowly fading into the background without a hit single to reignite her momentum. Her window of opportunity appears to be closing, and while her personality ensures she'll remain a cultural icon, her credibility as a rapper continues to decline. And instead of acknowledging her flaws, she would again bash her own fanbase, writing in a now deleted tweet, "No, it's just annoying, this means a lot to me, and it's always a complaint and crying with this P-word fanbase." And recently, things hit rock bottom when Cardi couldn't even accept an award without talking trash to everyone. In her speech, she said,
"I'm really my biggest critic, and I always say this, nobody have it harder in the industry and in every genre harder than a female rapper."
But if you think Cardi had a lot of beef and drama during her time in the industry, wait till you hear about this next rapper on this list. You see, Azealia has often been labeled as her own worst enemy in the music industry. However, although she is known for undeniable talent and bold creativity, Banks has repeatedly overshadowed her music with relentless feuds and controversial statements. But before we get into her controversies, how did she even get her start? Well, under the alias Miss Banks, she started posting music on MySpace where her talent caught the attention of major names including Diplo. However, her rise wasn't without dark undertones. Banks revealed that she had an inappropriate relationship with Diplo when she wasn't 18. She recalled feeling like she owed Diplo for changing her life, saying, "This revelation came as a shock to everyone." But regardless, at the time, things were going very well for Azealia, as in 2011, she exploded onto the music scene with 212, a track that perfectly captured her aggressive rap style and experimental blend of house and hip-hop. The song's success was magnified by a provocative music video that went viral, landing on prestigious lists like Rolling Stone's top 500 songs of all time, and 100 greatest music videos. But this didn't last long, because Banks' downfall began with an endless stream of public feuds, many of which she initiated. You see, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that she didn't care what anyone thought. To her, her words were just words, and she didn't know that there could be consequences down the road.
Cares.
You don't care?
I don't care. I don't care about the word. I don't care about the word. I care about the word. I don't care about the word. These are all like just, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, not to be like weird and deep, but like, you don't even know where language came from.
She would even argue that it could be just her culture and the way she grew up.
And especially like me as an African American, you know what I mean? My whole entire like history is like fabricated and just lies. Like, you expect me to give a about some fucking English language? Kiss my.
And with an attitude like that, there's no surprise that her career would soon be filled with drama. Her first target was fellow rapper Kreayshawn, who innocently tweeted a link to Banks' 212 video. The problem? The link directed users to an adult site. Banks lashed out, tweeting, "@Kreayshawn, you think you're funny? @Kreayshawn, you're a dumb B-word, and you can't rap. I'll sit on your fall back." Though the misunderstanding was resolved, it set the tone for Banks' confrontational reputation. Later on, she escalated her antics with Iggy Azalea, another female rapper and rising star, after Iggy appeared on XXL's 2012 freshman list. Banks condemned her inclusion, referencing Iggy's controversial lyric about being a runaway master for her song Look Out for Drugs. In a series of tweets, Azalea would rant, "Iggy Azalea on the XXL list is all wrong. How can you endorse a white woman who called herself a runaway master? I'm not anti-white girl, but I'm also not here for anyone outside of my culture trying to trivialize very serious aspects of it." To which Iggy would reply, seemingly unbothered, saying, "Don't bother including my aunt name in any of your salty thoughts either, because I'm blocking that today. I'm pro people, period. You can't block my blessings today. I'm celebrating, get with it, or kick rocks." And although the public sided with Banks initially, her feud eventually extended to T.I., who defended Iggy. In an interview, the rapper had some words for Banks, saying, strategically, if she really cares about a freshman cover, maybe she could hope that she'll suck enough to get shelved, and then next year when the freshman cover comes back around, maybe she'll still be a freshman. He added that she should worry about herself and herself only. If you spend half of your day getting money and the other half of your day counting money, you ain't got no time of the day to worry about anybody else. But of course, Banks fired back on Twitter, writing, "T.I., please shut the f up about this. Like seriously, put it." In her typical fashion, she didn't hold back. "Ain't you the same dude who got photographed butt in a pair of sneakers and a beanie? What a clown." And finally, she accused T.I. of being a snitch. "Funny how you have plenty of time to address me, but I've nothing to say about the dudes who've been calling you a snitch forever. It's dead. The streets already know what kind of dude you are. Stop making yourself look softer by dragging this out." However, she still didn't stop there. When she did an interview with DJ Ebro on Hot 97, she recalled a time when she met T.I. and even wanted to get violent with him.
And that nigga backstage at the Kanye West show and stood next to him on purpose. Like, I dare him to say something to me. I dare him to do something. Like, I would love it. Had my sister with me. Like, we would have jumped T.I.
And according to her story, T.I. didn't respond.
Of course he didn't. Him and Tiny was just looking at me. I kept inching like right next close to him. Like, Kanye was performing. I was like, I dare you. Don't play with me.
But she wasn't done just yet, as she even imitated how the rapper read.
Yeah, I say to you, because I remember he
was like, well, the situation said, cause I am a very distinguished individual and I keeps it real. And she need to get her man before she come talk to me, cause yeah.
And next thing you know, she was just openly mocking and dissing T.I.
Yeah, where the f did you learn how to read? Freedmen's Bureau? Did you get your GED in jail? Out of here. Out of here. This nigga crazy.
Yo, her New York. And while the feud cooled down over the years, the bad blood remained a recurring narrative. You see, her contentious streak wasn't limited to newcomers. Banks also clashed with Lil' Kim after sending the veteran rapper a pre-written verse for a planned collaboration. According to Banks, everyone knows Lil' Kim doesn't write her own raps, and I saw this as a faster, more efficient way of getting the track done. However, Kim's camp rejected the gesture, asserting that Kim writes her own music. She then had her assistant write me some long-ass offensive email about how Lil' Kim writes her own raps and doesn't need anyone's help. Feeling slighted, Banks took to Twitter to rant, saying, "It really sucks when someone you respect and admire is trying to act brand new when all you did was reach out and try to work." Azalea would eventually apologize to Lil' Kim years later, clarifying, "I wanted to make music with you for so many years, Kim. Apologies if when I sent you that verse, you thought I was trying to write for you. I wasn't." And while she did apologize years later, the damage to her reputation as a collaborator had already been done, leading to the question, why did Banks seem intent on burning bridges with those who could have elevated her career further? But anyways, Lil' Kim wasn't alone, because Banks' aggressive behavior also extended to one of the most influential figures in hip-hop, Nicki Minaj. After declining an invitation to join Minaj's European tour, Banks saw a tweet from Nicki Minaj, and of course, she thought it was a diss directly to her. However, the tweet only said, "Man, these bitches delirious." No name dropping, just a hashtag. But I guess that was enough for Azalea to respond with insults about Minaj's grammar and talent, tweeting, "Use good grammar when insulting others," and "I don't believe rap game hierarchy. Sorry." Afterwards, this feud dragged on for years, with Banks even body shaming Minaj and Minaj retaliating by mocking Banks in her mobile game, Nicki Minaj the Empire. However, their beef would briefly end in 2017 when Azalea slid into Nicki's DMs to apologize, saying, "I want to apologize for whatever Caddy should have said to or about you in the past. I really do enjoy your artistry and I think you're so intelligent and clever. You have a really brilliant art mind and oftentimes remind me of myself." She even added that she would never speak bad about her again. "You have my word that from here on out, I will never ever say anything negative or catty about you ever again." But it looked like Azalea would forget her promise, because years later, she would insert herself into a separate Nicki Minaj feud, now with another female rapper, Latto. The Barbs need a petition to get Nicki Minaj some rehab and mental health services through the Grammy's Music Cards program, she wrote on her Instagram story. It's becoming painstakingly clear that this is a woman that needs serious help, because this level of anger is not normal at all. It's getting scary watching her spiral like this with a child. So, while they squashed their beef back in 2017, it looks like the two are back on bad terms. And of course, Azealia Banks saying this about Nicki Minaj was pretty ironic. On the other hand, Azealia didn't just come after rappers. She also went after pop stars. Lady Gaga was another high-profile casualty of Banks' anger. In 2013, Interscope planned for Banks to collaborate with Gaga on her art pop album. However, Banks accused Gaga of stealing her mermaid aesthetic, and the partnership ended. In a short Twitter altercation, Gaga initially promoted and announced the dress code for her upcoming show in London's Roundhouse, writing, "I will be providing a list of acceptable attire for the hashtag Swinefest throughout this week. Item 1, seashells. Item 2, seahorses. 3, starfish." For some reason, Azealia Banks was not happy at all. I guess she had exclusive rights to mermaid costumes. And she would tweet, at Lady Gaga, sounds a lot like Azealia Banks' mermaid balls. And of course Gaga wants to play mermaid again. However, Azealia wouldn't let the beef end there. Years later, she would still claim that Lady Gaga was stealing her ideas. In her favorite social media app, Twitter, she claimed, at Lady Gaga, make sure you let them know where you got the little title for the red flame from. You stole that from the demo I sent you. Life is great, you can have it, plenty more where that came from. Seriously, this one is free. Next time, I'm charging. So, how many opportunities were lost because Banks couldn't keep her feuds off social media? Well, a lot. You see, by 2016, Banks' pattern of unprovoked acts had escalated. This time with One Direction member Zayn Malik, where Azealia directed many not-so-nice remarks against Zayn, accusing him of copying her work, specifically in his song Like I Would. In an Instagram post, Azealia said, "Damn, Zayn be moodboarding the F out of me. I'm not mad about this though, Zayn is a cutie pie." However, all hell broke loose when she assumed that Zayn's tweets were about her. "No lies, I see you reaching, but I don't care. My ad's too good for you." After that, Azealia went on a racist and homophobic rant on Twitter, calling Zayn all sorts of names, and I can't really say what she said. Zayn would respond though with a calm dismissal, saying, "At Azealia Banks, why you been saying nasty things about me? I wasn't talking about you, lol." However, that triggered Banks even more, now retweeting his messages, and said even crazier things to him, which once again, I can't say. And during this time, it looked like her attitude was getting in the way of succeeding in the music business. Right after her intense rant about Zayn, she was booted off a headlining festival in London, and it didn't take long for her to experience her worst nightmare, Twitter suspension. It probably crushed her that she couldn't tweet during that time, so she had no choice but to offer an apology just months later. In an Instagram post, she wrote, "There are no words that can fully express how sorry I am. Recent events have taught me the importance of taking accountability for one's actions. I want and need to say I'm sorry, I was wrong." She further explained that her past had a huge impact on her. "At times, I'm so consumed by my own struggle, and the struggle of my race, that I forget to consider the hardships other minorities continue to endure." However, in the letter, it looked like she understood that her background is not a valid excuse for her actions. Coming from an ethnicity that is largely discriminated against does not warrant a license to use derogatory, abusive terminology, nor does it give me the right to make hurtful remarks. I apologize not only to you, Zayn, but to all those I have hurt and offended. But once again, Zayn wasn't the only one to feel Azalea's wrath. Just when things seemed to settle, she turned her sights on Lana Del Rey. Her clash with Lana Del Rey in 2018 became even more personal. Initially, Lana criticized Kanye West's support of Donald Trump. Commenting on Kanye West's Instagram, she wrote, "Trump becoming our president was a loss for the country, but your support of him is a loss for the culture. I can only assume you relate to his personality on some level. Delusions of grandeur, extreme issues of narcissism, none of which would be a talking point if we weren't speaking about the man leading our country." So where does Azealia come in? Lana didn't even mention her, right? Well, Banks didn't appreciate Lana bashing her beloved president, so she again took to Twitter and accused Lana of exploiting political issues for clout. Wow, okay Lana, this would be cute if you were consistent with your outrage and refused to collab with A$AP Rocky, who is physically woman too. To me, this just looks like the typical white woman using a weakened target to pretend to be an ally. Lana Del Rey responded directly, challenging Banks to settle their differences in person, stating, "You know the addy, pull up anytime, say it to my face, but if I were you, I wouldn't." It looked like Lana wasn't planning to back down as she threatened to get physical, tweeting, "I won't not F you the F up, period." And for a mic drop moment, she added, "Banks, you could have been the greatest female rapper alive, but you blew it. Don't take it out on the only person who had your back." Later, Banks would clap back, posting a photo of Lana in her Instagram mocking her appearance, to which Lana countered, "I'll send you my surgeon's number and a good psychiatrist I know in LA. Your psych meds aren't working. Hashtag you need a new cocktail." So when even Lana Del Rey, known for her calm demeanor, publicly lashes out and destroys you, you know you've hit a new low. But beyond the constant beef, Banks' erratic behavior didn't stop there. She even insulted nations like Brazil and Ireland, as well as attacked Cardi B, mocked Kendrick Lamar's activism, and picked fights with celebrities ranging from Elon Musk to Beyonce. Moving forward, let's dial the clock back a bit about the inevitable downfall of one of the greats. Of course, we're talking about the artist who helped pave the way for the female rap superstars of today, one of the best to ever do it, Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill was a member of the Fugees, undoubtedly one of the most celebrated hip-hop groups in the 90s. Although the group only released 2 studio albums, Blunted on Reality and The Score, their second and final album was hailed as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. The Score was so popular that it sold over 22 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling hip-hop album for a while. It won Best Rap Album at the Grammys, and their single Killing Me Softly also won Best R&B Performance. So clearly, the Fugees, that Lauryn Hill was a part of, were one of the greatest hip-hop groups of the 90s. However, unfortunately, the Fugees' time together was criminally short. So what happened? Well, there's several speculations as to why the Fugees drifted apart so early in the group's run, but perhaps the most accepted explanation was that Wyclef and Lauryn, two members of the group, were having an affair behind the scenes, and that their relationship failed in a very dramatic way that affected the rest of the Fugees. So once again, what happened? Well, Wyclef and Lauryn's secret relationship wasn't so simple because around this time, Wyclef was married to a woman named Marie Claudette. Apparently, Hill and Wyclef had been seeing each other on and off even before Wyclef was married, but their affair continued afterward. In 1996, Lauryn also met Rohan Marley, son of the refugee legend Bob Marley, while she was touring with the Fugees, and while Rohan was interested in Hill, she didn't return the affection because she was apparently still attached to Wyclef. But then, in late 1996, Lauryn Hill got pregnant, which apparently made the dynamic with the Fugees camp weird, according to Pros. When she got pregnant, things definitely started going on, things got crazy. And the reason why Lauryn's pregnancy was noteworthy to everyone was because she didn't know whether it was Wyclef or Rohan's. The conversation between everyone on the low was no one knew until that baby came out, said someone who was close to the group. Lauryn, though, wanted the baby to be Wyclef's. One of Lauryn's friends told Rolling Stone, "People don't know how calculating she can be. Lauryn used Ro to put herself out of the relationship with Clef, and she happened to get pregnant. She hoped that baby was Wyclef's because it would have forced his hand, but it wasn't." It was later found out that the baby was indeed Rohan's. Lauryn named her son Zion Marley. On the day Hill went into labor, Wyclef apparently flew to the hospital to be with Lauryn Hill and see the child, not knowing it wasn't his. Years later, Wyclef wrote an autobiographical book called Purpose, in which he detailed how he felt after finding out the baby wasn't his. "In that moment, something died between us. I was married, and Lauryn and I was having an affair, but she led me to believe that the baby was mine, and I couldn't forgive that. She could no longer be my muse. Our love spell was broken." And Wyclef himself has pointed to this moment as the reason to why the Fugees ultimately fell apart, and understandably so. And Pros, another member of the group, also blamed Wyclef for the group's falling out as well.
Does he blame you sometimes, like, man, like, why you
I'm
just
sure he
couldn't-"
definitely blamed me, you know what I'm saying? You know, and if you go back to the old articles one time, you know, where Pros is like, "Yo, man, Clef was the cancer of the Fugees." You know what I'm saying? Remember when he said that?
As harsh as it sounded, it's hard to blame Pros for pointing his fingers at Wyclef. After all, since the beginning, he warned him not to date her, and he did anyway. And in situations like these where group mates or bandmates end up dating, it's always going to end up badly for the group or band as a whole when the relationship falls apart. And in Lauryn Hill and Wyclef's case, it fell apart hard. It's difficult to imagine them working again after what happened, and although they did try to reunite several times throughout the years, each attempt failed. So after their critically acclaimed album The Score, the Fugees never followed up. Instead, in 1997, each member of the Fugees began doing solo projects. Pros released his single Ghetto Superstar, Wyclef produced for several artists and made his debut album Wyclef Jean Presents the Carnival, and Lauryn started working on what would be her first and only solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. You see, Lauryn was highly motivated to make a name for herself as an artist while making this album. During the peak of the Fugees' career, Wyclef Jean was perceived as the group's musical genius. Lauryn apparently didn't like that. She also didn't like that her affair with Wyclef was becoming more known in the music industry. Her solo career wasn't based on "I want to do an album," it was based on not being Wyclef's side girl, said Roots drummer Amir Thompson. While Lauryn was in the process of creating the album, Wyclef offered to help with the production, although he initially did not support Lauryn going solo. Lauryn declined Wyclef's offer, insisting that it was very important to her that she was seen as the solo auteur of her album. As someone close to Lauryn told Rolling Stone, that was why she had to be seen as doing it all herself, to show "I'm better than Wyclef. He's getting credit as the genius in the group, I'm the genius in the group." Aside from sheer spite directed at Wyclef that drove her to create this album, Lauryn also wanted to create a solo project for a long time. Way before all that drama between her and Wyclef took place, after seeing that Pros and Wyclef kept working on other artists' solo projects but hers, Lauryn called her manager and decided to do this thing herself. She gathered a new team of collaborators to help her create this new album. The group would consist of musicians, songwriters, and producers from different genres. The team was called New Arc. But before she could get going with making music, Lauryn had other problems. You see, Lauryn's pregnancy with her first baby played a huge factor in the creation of Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. One thing you have to realize is that when Lauryn first got pregnant, she was at the height of her career. The Fugees had just released The Score, they were touring a lot, and she was being regarded as one of the best female rappers of her time. So many in her professional circle advised her to terminate her pregnancy as it would damage her career. However, Lauryn Hill didn't listen to these pleas. In fact, she wrote about it in this track to Zion, which she dedicated to her first child. "I knew his life deserved a chance, but everyone told me to be smart. Look at your career," they said. "Lauryn, baby, use her head, but instead, I chose to use my heart." And what do you know? When Lauryn chose her heart, her career blossomed because prior to all of this, she was experiencing terrible writer's block, which stopped her from making and recording any new music for a time. However, her pregnancy sprung her creativity back to life. When some women are pregnant, women, their hair and their nails grow, but for me, it was my mind and ability to create. I had the desire to write in a capacity that I hadn't done in a while. I don't know if it's a hormonal or emotional thing. I was very in touch with my feelings at the time, Hill told Ebony magazine in 1998. Her creativity was so on point that she allegedly managed to write over 30 songs during her pregnancy. Some of these songs were given to other artists such as Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston, while others became tracks for Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And guess what? When the album was released in August of 1998, it met commercial and critical acclaim. The record sold over 422,000 copies in its first week alone, and as of today, it has sold over 20 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling albums of all time. The aforementioned doo-wop became the album's lead single, and it debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, which made it the first hip-hop song to debut at #1. And it also went on to win a myriad of awards. For example, her Grammy sweep was regarded as one of the biggest milestones in music history. So, due to the success of her debut album, Lauryn Hill must have felt like she was on top of the world. She wanted to prove to the world that she could create a successful solo album outside of the Fugees, and she wanted to prove that she was the genius in the group, and she successfully proved all of that and more. However, just 3 months after the album was released, Lauryn would be pulled back to earth in the form of a lawsuit that directly had to do with the album that propelled her to the heavens. You see, in November of 1998, New Arc, the team that Lauryn assembled to help her create the solo album, filed a lawsuit against her, her management, and her record label. According to their lawsuit, Hill and her label used their songs and production skills, but failed to properly credit them for their work. The plaintiffs maintained that they should have been credited as songwriters and producers for 13 of the album's 14 tracks, claiming they've done songwriting and producing work on every track on the album except for To Zion. They were only credited as additional production and additional musical contribution and additional lyrical contribution. In response to the lawsuit, Lauryn Hill said that the claims were without any merit whatsoever and that she felt deeply betrayed by the group that she had formed. Her PR also said that New Arc was appropriately credited for the contribution on the album. This is an attempt to take advantage of her success, and it will be dealt with through the courts. However, New Arc's attorney, Pete Harvey, attempted to discredit Lauryn Hill's musical prowess by saying, "She is not a musician, she is not a producer, New Arc will make another album and everyone will see that they were the ones responsible for this album. I dare say if you put Lauryn Hill in a studio alone, she couldn't do it again. Album number 2 for her is not going to sound like this." So what happened? Well, apparently, while they were making the album, Hill made assurances to New Arc that they would be credited and paid accordingly for the contributions to the album. Unfortunately, this agreement was never pinned down in writing. Several individuals who were involved in the making of the album also allegedly told Hill that they should document and define everyone's role in the album, but she went against the idea. "We all love each other. This isn't about documents, this is blessed," Lauryn said. So maybe Lauryn meant well, but documents could have saved her a lot of trouble if she truly did credit everyone accordingly as she claimed. But according to the members of New Arc, things were different. For example, Veda Nobles also said that he tried to resolve everything without a lawyer, but Lauryn wasn't cooperating, which led him to handle things more legally. Everything changed. It went from we to I. Everything started out genuine, but somewhere down the line, something switched. Once it became clear that I wouldn't be credited or compensated according to what's fair, I had to voice how I felt. I had a wife and family. She barely credited me. She gave Che my credits. As God is my witness, that was in spite. I tried my best to resolve it with my lawyers, but it became impossible. The suit dragged on for about 3 years. They tried to discredit us that we were musicians trying to take advantage of her. So in the wake of all of this, Lauryn's label, Columbia Records, urged her to settle, but she wanted to fight. She didn't want to settle anything because she felt like settling would have been an admission of guilt, says one of Lauryn's friends. She was very concerned about credit. It's what eluded her from her past success with the Fugees. She didn't want to be just a pretty face and a pretty voice. She wanted people to know she knows what she's doing. That said, the longer the case dragged on, the more messed up Lauryn Hill became. Discussing her art with lawyers apparently messed with her, according to another one of her friends. So Lauryn eventually settled out of court. It's said that she paid New Arc $5 million in total, but that this case wasn't as painful to her financially as it was emotionally. That was the beginning of the chain effect that would turn everything a little crazy, Lauryn's friend said while talking to Rolling Stone. That said, things did go kind of crazy for Lauryn, and not in a good way. Unfortunately for her, as high as the miseducation of Lauryn Hill took her, her career would only start descending from there. But the descent didn't happen right away. You see, after an insanely successful album, Lauryn also went on a very successful tour in support of that album, 5 months after it was released, which was hailed by many as one of the most successful tours of all time. She also won another Grammy in 1999 for Santana's Supernatural, which she also helped write and produce, netting her second Album of the Year Grammy in succession. However, after all the success, Lauryn slowly became more reclusive. She started turning down high-profile roles such as a part in Charlie's Angels, which was given to Lucy Liu, and the leading female part in a remake of A Star Is Born, a project that was scrapped and redid in 2018. She was also supposed to have a part in The Bourne Identity and The Matrix films. So what happened? Well, it was around this time that those close to Lauryn said that she was beginning to dislike her superstar status. I think Lauryn grew to despise who Lauryn Hill was. Not that she despised herself as a human being, but she despised the manufactured international superstar magazine cover girl who wasn't able to go out of the house looking a little tattered on a given day. Lauryn was also praised for her fashion, so much so that the outfit she wore during the Miseducation Education Tour were displayed during exhibitions at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She always wanted to look good whenever she was seen in public, but she was beginning to dislike this too. Because Lauryn is such a perfectionist, she always thought to give the fans what they wanted. So a simple run to the grocery store had to have the right heels and jeans. Artists are a lot more calculating than the public sometimes knows. It doesn't happen by accident that the jeans just fall that right way. The hat is cocked to the side just so. All of that stuff is thought about, and Lauryn put a lot of pressure on herself after all of that success. And then one day, she said, screw it. By 2000, Lauryn grew tired of her music career, the very thing she used to seek refuge at. Around that time, she already had 2 children, and she was also reportedly unhappy with her relationship with Rohan. She felt betrayed by the musicians she once worked with, which made her very distrustful, so she fired her management team, stopped doing interviews, and even stopped listening to music. She found solace in another matter: spirituality. Hill began attending Bible study classes 5 times a week, and it was around this time she met someone who she would consider her spiritual advisor, a man known as Brother Anthony. Hill's relationship with Brother Anthony was criticized by her peers. One of her friends said, "I think she spoke to God, and maybe it wasn't God, but somebody showed up, a person came in, and they divided and conquered. They destroyed the whole thing," referring to Brother Anthony. Despite how the people around her saw their relationship, Hill and Brother Anthony eventually became inseparable. Brother Anthony taught Hill that she would be whoever she wants to be because she doesn't owe her fans anything. God didn't create us to be beholden unto people and entertain them. God holds us to the people that we want to be. Her friends also noted that most of Hill's sentences around this time started with "Brother Anthony said." Many of her friends also commented on how aggressive, possessive, and crooked Brother Anthony seemed. Some thought he brainwashed Hill and told her what to do, while some thought he saw Hill as a cash cow. Even Pross, Lauryn's former groupmate, didn't like Brother Anthony's whole aura. He thought he was more of a cult leader than a spiritual mentor. Brother Anthony was definitely on some other shit. I had a tape of his teachings. That stuff was ill. Messed me up. I can't really explain it. It was some weird stuff, man. It was some real cult stuff. When I heard the tape, I couldn't believe that this dude was really serious. He was saying, "Give up all your money." I don't know if that meant give it to me or whatever, but on the tape he said, money doesn't mean anything. However, Brother Anthony saw Lauryn Hill, and what was clear was that the relationship drove a wedge between Hill and her audience. One of the clearest instances of this was when she recorded her MTV Unplugged in 2001. You see, Lauryn Hill's MTV Unplugged session is perhaps one of the most raw performances in the history of MTV, and whether that's in a good or bad way is actually up to you. Unlike her prior release, which was pretty much universally loved and praised, Lauryn Hill's MTV Unplugged 2.0 was highly polarizing. Those who praised Hill's performance said that it was poetic, brave, unfiltered, and socially and culturally relevant. On the other side of the coin, those who have criticized it called it the most bizarre follow-up in the history of music. It was a complete departure from hip-hop. Some call it self-indulgent, exhausting, and messy. Rolling Stone called it a public breakdown. Music executives also hated the session. One industry veteran said, "Anyone with ears can hear that there are only 3 chords being played in every song." I saw it with a room full of professionals, and someone said, "I feel like jumping out a window." Another said, "A lesser artist, it would have never been released. A lesser artist wouldn't have been allowed to do that." Unplugged sold just 470,000 records, a failure. Another industry insider says, "I'm sure Columbia lost money on it." Now, I doubt Lauryn Hill cared what a music executive thought, but the point here was that she was able to get away with it because of who she was. She was successful enough to pull something like this off. Any lesser artist would be blackballed by the industry. Lauryn also sounded raspy throughout that whole performance, which she even acknowledged herself.
I know I sound raspy, but that's, hey. You know, reality is sometimes I stay up late. This is what I sound like when I wake up the next day. And, you know, it's a voice.
What happened was that during the rehearsal that day before they recorded the session, Hill messed up her throat. MTV offered to reschedule the session so that her voice could heal up, but Lauryn declined for whatever reason. She also completely broke down at the end of Peace of Mind, which was heartbreaking and uncomfortable to witness. It looked like Lauryn wasn't in a very good place mentally, and it all just snapped for her during this performance. Truth be told, watching that performance just feels wrong. With everything we know about Lauryn Hill leading up to the performance, we know that she wasn't in a good place, she was unhappy, she was feeling pressure from the industry, and she was in this really odd situation with Brother Anthony. Her breaking down during that recording felt like it should have been a private moment, and watching it just felt wrong. That said, this live album did end up becoming more well regarded in recent years. The songs themselves have been praised for their powerful lyricism, and it's been popularly sampled by Kanye West and A$AP Rocky, and has inspired multiple popular artists such as Adele, B.O.B., and Ed Sheeran. That said, Lauryn did try to create a follow-up album that was recorded in a studio in 2003 that Columbia Records actually helped create in Hill's Miami apartment since she didn't want to drive. To help work on this album, Lauryn and her team flew in several musicians, putting them up in hotels and paying for their time, but things were incredibly slow. There were moments when Lauryn wouldn't show up to sessions at all. "We'll start tomorrow" was a common thing heard during this time, and Hill worked so slowly that the musicians they flew in eventually left without ever getting into the studio. Columbia Records apparently spent over $2.5 million to have this record made. However, seeing as Lauryn wasn't getting anything done, they eventually cut off her recording budget. Plenty of artists spend $2 million, says an industry insider. But she has to fly all these people around, and she had to build a studio in her Miami apartment because she couldn't drive half a mile in the studio. Columbia bent over backwards for her in pure self-interest, and I think they still believe in her. But you can't abuse the system like that. You can't do that. Furthermore, her spiritualism and biblical fanaticism took over the recording session. Her friends recalled that she would often talk entirely in scriptures like a religious fanatic. She would sometimes answer serious business questions with things like, "We'll see what God has in store." She also asked several people to work on the album with her, and when asked how much they would get paid, Lauryn responded, "Do it for God," which meant do it for free. And as we know now, the album was never made, but she did end up working on it up to a point, and those who have had the chance to hear snippets of it say it was incredible. Speaking on this, another insider said, "What she's doing and where she's going with it, ain't nobody even touching her. Nobody's even thinking that way." In the sad state of music we're in, I feel deprived knowing that she's got some real flavor that she's holding back. Some Lauryn's friends say that she was feeling lost at this time, and that she was too sad and lonely to create this album, compared to when she was working on the miseducation of Lauryn Hill, where she felt very inspired, motivated, and impassioned. She still wanted to create another album, she just couldn't motivate herself to finish one. She wants to do another album, a friend says. Deep down, Lauryn Hill is still Lauryn. She always wanted to be famous, she always wanted to sing, she always wanted to hear applause. That's what she grew up to do. So to now not want it, that's not believable. She wants it the way brother Anthony thinks it should be. His opinion is the only opinion that matters to her. Unfortunately, Lauryn never got to create another album. However, Lauryn still couldn't find herself not being indulged in controversy, and this is where the downhill really began. You see, while Lauryn's live shows were few and far between, she did make some notable exceptions, like when she performed at Vatican City in December of 2003. She was invited to perform at the Christmas concert, and according to Hill herself, she only accepted the invitation so she could protest regarding the scandals associated with the Catholic Church. Before her performance, Lauryn Hill said this to a crowd of 7,000 people. "I am sorry if I am about to offend some of you. I did not accept my invitation to celebrate with you the birth of Christ. Instead, I ask why you are not mourning for him in this place. I want to ask you, what have you got to say about the lives you have broken?" She was speaking to the high-ranking church officials who were listening. What about the families who were expecting God and instead were cheated by the devil? Who feel sorry for them? The men, the women, and children damaged psychologically, emotionally, and mentally by the perversions carried out by the people they believed in. Lauryn also addressed how this matter was a problem that comes from the top of the Catholic Church and how they cover up offenses done by priests. Holy God is a witness to the corruption of your leadership, of the exploitation and abuses which are the minimum that can be said for the clergy. There is no acceptable excuse to defend the church. Afterwards, silence befell the crowd as Lauryn made her speech. Many of those in the audience couldn't understand or speak English. Those who understood her yelled enough or shame after Hill said her piece. After Lauryn finished her performance, her speech was translated to one of the head bishops who sat in the front row. He walked out after understanding what Lauryn had said. No one at the Vatican made a comment responding to Hill's speech, but the organizer of the event told the media it was in poor taste and very bad mannered. It showed a complete lack of respect for her invitation and for the place where she had been invited to perform. However, Hill stood her ground when she was approached by the media before leaving the Vatican for New York. She said, "What I said was the truth. Is telling the truth bad manners? What I asked was the church to repent for what has happened." The Catholic League, an American Catholic organization, also attacked Lauryn Hill for what she said at the Vatican. The League's president didn't address any of Hill's comments, but he did attack her directly, saying she was pathologically miserable and that her career was in decline and she would continue to head south. There were also rumors that Hill's words weren't her own, but that she was rather influenced by brother Anthony. Hill didn't make any further comments on this matter, and nor did the Catholic Church, and to this day, nobody has spoken on it. But that wasn't her first performance went wrong. You see, the very next year, in 2004, the Fugees reunited for the first time since 1997. They performed at Dave Chappelle's block party. They also performed at the BET Awards in 2005 and embarked on a European tour later that year. So it looked like the group was gearing up to get things back and running again. And there were even rumors that the group was in the process of making a new album. And it looked like these rumors are true because in 2005 and 2006, several of their new songs got leaked online. One of these songs, Take It Easy, even managed to make it to the Billboard R&B charts. Unfortunately, this album wouldn't get made. While they were making the album, old tensions between the group allegedly resurfaced. Lauryn apparently started being difficult and odd to people she had known for years. For example, she asked the Fugees camp that they call her Mrs. Hill, and she explained why she chose to be addressed that way. Hill said, "I'm Miss Hill now because I'm a wise woman. That is the respect I deserve." Her old friends, such as Prass in particular, found this odd. When she said, "It's Miss Hill," I said, "Excuse me?" said the rapper Prass. She also told me that she was gonna have people call her Empress. Her old groupmates also didn't like how late Lauryn always was. She was late almost every night, and sometimes Lauryn would be almost an hour late to shows and recordings. I kid you not, every night I'm on stage for 40 to 50 minutes before she would come out, Wyclef said. Then, while they were in the studio, they were in the process of finishing a song called Lips Don't Lie. This song was the original version of Shakira's Hips Don't Lie. But for some reason, Lauryn didn't like the song at all. She walked out, and the hit song was given to Shakira.
What happened? I just remember that Wyclef and I were working on Hips Don't Lie. That was a Fugees record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was, imagine if we did that record.
Wow, that would have
been
insane.
I think our version was Lips Don't Lie, something like that. And so, but Lauryn didn't like it.
Because of that, Lauryn just walked out.
And then Charlie Walk, you know, called me that night. He used to be the president of Epic. And he says, I gotta do a remix for Shakira, what you doing? I said, you're not gonna believe this, man, I'm depressed. Lauryn Hill walked out the studio, the Fugees is done. He said, are you serious?
And because of that, the album was never completed, and the reunion was halted. Lauryn Hill spoke with Time magazine after this, and the things she said about her former group was less than praiseworthy. The Fugees was a conspiracy to control, to manipulate, and to encourage dependence. She said, I took a lot of bad things that many people would not have taken in those circumstances. However, both Pras and Wyclef were also extremely vocal about not wanting to work with Lauryn anymore. Pras told All Hip Hop in 2007, before I work with Lauryn Hill again, you will have a better chance of seeing Redacted and George W. Bush in Starbucks together, having a latte, discussing foreign policy, before there will be a Fugees reunion. At this point, I really think it will take an act of God to change her, because she's that far out there. Wyclef also stepped in and gave his thoughts on Lauryn around this time, suggesting she get help before doing any more shows. I feel like the first issue that needs to be addressed is that Lauryn needs to get help. In my personal opinion, those Fugees reunion shows shouldn't have been done because we wasn't ready. I really felt like we should have first all gone into a room with Lauryn and a psychiatrist. But you know, I do believe Lauryn can get help. And once she does work things out, hopefully a proper and enduring Fugees reunion will happen. And just like that, any hopes of the Fugees reuniting for a third album crashed. Their fans were left wanting, to no avail, and the group wouldn't be seen together on stage until 15 years later. But of course, that didn't mean Lauryn wasn't going to be on stage. After all, she was a legend, right? So in the years after the Fugees tried to reunite, Lauryn toured on her own. But her tour was starting to get received negatively for one particular reason. Lauryn was always late. Sometimes she was 2 to 3 hours late in her shows. In several instances, fans booed her and left early. In some shows, after arriving late, Lauryn would do various remixes to her songs which fans were unfamiliar with, and she'd sport odd outfits. Sometimes she'd rush her set and leave early despite arriving late. And this got so bad that it became a reputation.
At a recent French show on her Miseducation of Lauryn Hill 20th anniversary tour, she only performed a half-hour set because she showed up 2 hours late. What? But y'all, Lauryn had a surprise for her fans at her recent London show. According to The Independent, Lauryn was only 20 minutes late. That's gotta be a new record, right?
Everyone in the industry started talking about Lauryn's tardiness during her live shows. Even her old groupmate Pras spoke on it.
Anytime you ever hear Lauryn Hill's doing a show, anytime you ever hear Lauryn Hill's doing a show, it follows by, and she was this amount of time late.
At one point, Lauryn herself acknowledged this fact at a live show. During the LA stop of her Miseducation of Lauryn Hill 25th anniversary tour, Lauryn Hill defended her tardiness and said this to her audience.
People say, hey, yeah, she's late. She's late a lot. Yo, y'all lucky I make it on this blood rod stage every night.
Now, that's not a great way of defending your notorious tardiness at all. She then went on to explain that she doesn't do shows because they let her do it. She does shows in the name of God, and God is the one who allows her to do it. This genuinely does not explain why she's late all the time, but alright. A few years prior to this event, Lauryn actually did give a proper explanation to her audience when, as always, she was late, and someone in the audience heckled her for it.
The point that I'm making, why am I late? Why am I late? Let me answer that.
This is what Lauryn said.
It's okay. Every day is a different day. Every day I'm dealing with different issues, and I still pull myself up to come and do this performance and try to be there on stage. Some days it takes more than others. Some days, because I'm not a machine, a robot.
So basically, she explained that she gets late to shows sometimes because she deals with other issues, and it's often difficult to get to her performances. That's valid, sure. But it still seems like she's very ungrateful to her fans, and by constantly being tardy to shows, she isn't respecting the time and money her fans spent just to see her. As an artist, Lauryn has an obligation to paying fans to start her concerts on time and give her audience a proper show. Not to make them wait for an hour, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, because she's having a bad day. And this would have been a tad acceptable if Lauryn only did this for a couple of shows, but she's done this for literal decades. Over the years, this has led to many opt out not to see her live, because it's a chance she might show up very late, which has unfortunately dwindled her fanbase. One fan explained the situation perfectly. I don't know why anyone would buy tickets to see her show in 2023. It is known and has been known she is very, very late. If she shows at all and plays songs in different such odd ways that make them unrecognizable, and she's prone to cutting shows short and leaving suddenly. Yes, she has one iconic, truly powerful solo album that she released 25 years ago, so go and listen to that and enjoy it in your home. Do not give Lauryn Hill any further time or money. Her tardiness seems to still stem from a lack of commitment to her music. It was the reason why she never made a follow-up album to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and it's the reason why the Fugees reunion failed. In short, Lauryn's career eventually fell off because her relationship with music became tumultuous after she released her debut solo album. You see, over the years, Lauryn Hill has dipped her toes in and out of the industry. She still does shows every once in a while, and the Fugees even tried to reunite in 2024 after playing together in Coachella. However, following this, the group was scheduled to start a reunion tour. However, all their shows were cancelled just 3 days before the start of the first show, which stirred up some controversy. When the shows were first cancelled, neither Lauryn Hill nor the group initially offered any reason behind the cancellation of the tour. Everyone just suddenly found out about it after they received a notification from Live Nation that simply stated, "Your event has been cancelled, a refund will be on its way to your account soon." Expectedly, fans are quite disappointed with this turn of events, especially since this was the third time since 2020 that a Fugees tour had been announced, only for it to be cancelled at the last minute. In 2022, the group was supposed to do another world tour celebrating the 25th anniversary of their critically acclaimed album The Score, but that was cancelled as well due to the ongoing pandemic at the time. Many of their shows were rescheduled to 2023, but these were cancelled as well because Lauryn Hill was suffering from vocal strain. This new tour was actually supposed to be the new reschedule of the group's cancelled 25th anniversary tour of The Score, but because of the subsequent events that transpired following the tour's cancellation, so let's get into it. A few days after the tour was cancelled, Lauryn Hill took to Instagram to express her disappointment regarding the cancellation. "No one is more disappointed than I am," she said. She then said that although their US shows had been cancelled, their UK shows were going to move forward as planned. As promised, they did push through with their UK tours, with one major caveat. Only 2 of the 3 members of the Fugees performed, with Pras being notably missing. Then, after their 2024 tour was cancelled, Pras dropped a song called Bar Mitzvah. In it, he rapped, "Don't blame me, blame her. She made the mess. Not another penny is what I told Clef." And it doesn't take a genius to immediately figure out that this song was a diss track against Lauryn Hill. When confronted on this, Pras said the song wasn't necessarily a diss, but rather, it was just the result of him speaking the truth. He explained, "Your family, you have internal disagreements, but it's not going to be on a level where I'm dissing her. That doesn't make any sense. Artistically speaking, sometimes we say things because that's how we express ourselves. This track is me speaking my truth." He also said that he understood everyone's frustrations, saying, "Everyone's frustration has been building up. This is not something that has just happened overnight. My frustration was for the fans. They are paying that hard-earned money to see you." Now, whether or not the track was a diss track was irrelevant, because just in October of this year, he filed a lawsuit against his former groupmate Lauryn Hill over fraud and breach of contract, among others, following their cancelled orders. According to Pras, the Score 25th anniversary tour was actually a veiled and devious attempt to make a big score for herself. Pras alleged that Hill secretly siphoned off money from the tour guarantees and that she's refused to permit an audit of the Fugees tour. According to the lawsuit, the tour should have been a huge commercial success, since most of the shows for the entire arena-sized tour were sold out in advance. Hill controlled the tour's budget, which Pras claims she seriously mishandled, and that the budget was so bloated with unnecessary and most likely fictitious expenses that it seemed designed to lose money. If that wasn't bad enough, the lawsuit also claimed that Hill was being narcissistic and arrogant. Hill's arrogance was again demonstrated when she unilaterally rejected a $5 million offer to play Coachella. The reason was that her ego was bruised since the group, no doubt, would be receiving top billing over the Fugees, the lawsuit stated. Hill also allegedly asked Pras to open for her son, YG Marley, for free at Coachella, which Pras said was a display of hubris on her part. Hill never told Pras about the offer or that she was rejecting it. Pras only learned about it when it was too late, after Hill, in an astonishing display of hubris, asked Pras if he would agree to perform a few Fugees songs for free at the opening act for her son, YG Marley, who was slated to perform at the same Coachella festival. Finally, Pras stated that Hill was the one who proposed the reunion tour in the first place, because it was the only way she could save her ego after her solo tour failed. According to Pras, Hill proposed that idea to Wyclef and then relayed it to Pras. Pras said that Hill realized that reuniting with Pras and Wyclef and billing the tour as a Fugees tour would be her only way to perform at arena-sized venues and feed her insatiable ego. Yeah, Pras was heated to the core, and he didn't hold back one bit. In response, Lauryn called her former bandmate's lawsuit baseless and full of false claims and unwarranted attacks. She also stated that Pras was given a $3 million advance for the tour, which he said he required to pay his legal fee. To make sure Pras got what he needed, Hill and Wyclef apparently deferred their full advances. Hill also claimed that the tour was originally planned to be a continuation of her Miseducation of Lauryn Hill tour, but she expanded it to incorporate the Fugees because she found out that Pras was in trouble and would need money to aid his legal defense. Pras also allegedly thanked her for saving his life, which Hill said she has receipts of. Finally, as if to combat all the vitriol that was massively evident in Pras' lawsuit, Hill chose to take the high road by ending a response with, "Despite his attacks, I'm still compassionate and hope things work out for him." Nothing has come out of this lawsuit yet, but it should be noted that Pras was facing a wide range of legal battles with the United States Department of Justice for being a part of an alleged criminal conspiracy with a Malaysian financier, Joe Lowe. In April of 2023, he was found guilty of 10 criminal counts and is facing up to 20 years in prison, but he is currently free on bond. So who should we believe in this situation? I guess I'll just leave it up to you. Now let's talk about an iconic 80s rap group, Salt-N-Pepa. You see, in 1985, a talented hip-hop trio came onto the scene, and not only was it huge for hip-hop, but it was also huge for women. Cheryl James, better known as Salt, and Sandra, named Peppa, were pioneers of female rap, and with their producer DJ Spinderella, the music created a movement. However, when DJ Spinderella joined Salt-N-Pepa at just 16 years old, she couldn't have imagined the whirlwind she was stepping into.
I was in high school and Herbie, which was our producer at the time, manager at the time, was looking for a female for his group, Salt-N-Pepa, and I auditioned and I got it.
Years passed and Spinderella finally spoke out about her experiences, exposing the shocking truth about the group that every fan needs to hear. You see, Spinderella was more than just a DJ spinning tracks and making beats in the background. She was responsible for creating the group's sound and image, which many fans clearly enjoyed and loved. Yet, despite her contributions, she wasn't really included when it came to decision making within the group. According to an interview,
who makes decisions? It's the two of them. And honestly, you guys, all you got to do is just look. You can see it. It's really not that deep.
So it was only normal for her to feel left out. She felt as if she was an outsider inside her own group. And when Salt-N-Pepa was celebrated as a duo, her integral role was continuously getting downplayed. By the 90s, Salt-N-Pepa had already cemented their names in the industry. They'd sold platinum albums and had other hits like What a Man and Shoot that made them household names in the genre. But behind the scenes, tension started to emerge as Spinderella began to notice how she was being cast aside, both creatively and financially. You see, while Salt-N-Pepa enjoyed the perks of being famous, Spin felt like she was being benched. And of course, no one really likes to be a bench warmer. According to Spinderella, she was far more than just some DJ at the back. She was out there performing, making the sound, and adding to the group's vibe.
If you put that picture out there that it's just two, that's what people are gonna see. So how are we putting a picture out that it's just two? My name is not in the group, so there's the first misconception.
Despite this, the difference in recognition and treatment was clear.
I was an employee and a DJ for hire, but they never paid me for none of those appearances and none of those photo sessions and none of those appearances on those albums and studio times and countless hours of interviews and building this brand.
But that's not all. Salt's personal journey also complicated things. You see, she began embracing her faith more and more and had taken the time to focus more on her spiritual being. But being a religious person while being a rap superstar isn't exactly the best combination, so she decided to distance herself from the group's signature sexy image.
I submitted my life to Christ for a number of reasons. The main one being I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And God just brought me to my knees and he just showed me where I was just compromising.
While Peppa leaned into it, Spinderella thought that it didn't really fit the new identity of Salt-N-Pepa, and unfortunately, it looked like the other members agreed. Then, after decades of partnership, Spinderella was shockingly fired in 2019. To her, this was the ultimate betrayal. Many people argue that Salt-N-Pepa wouldn't be here today without the beats and input of Spinderella. What's worse is after 30 years within the group, Spinderella's firing came in the most detached way imaginable. She was fired via email, and to her, this was the last straw, and decided to go all out on the group in public. She shared on Instagram, "I'm deeply sad to share with all the hashtag Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella fans that I will not be performing on the mixtape tour. Despite my participation in promoting the tour and being highly publicized as one of the acts, in January of 2019, I received a termination email from Salt-N-Pepa excluding me from performances with the group." She added that since she was the one being fired, she expected that the group would be the one to announce her departure, stating, "It was my expectation after making that decision that they would also take responsibility for sharing the news with the public and other affected parties. It has been months now with no mention. Out of my love for my fans and a commitment to upholding a standard of professionalism, I've taken it upon myself to let everyone know." However, she also clarified to her fans that this was not the end of her career. "I refuse to participate in misleading fans, ticket holders, and others who, based on all the advertising, were anticipating seeing the iconic hashtag Salt-N-Pepa and Spinderella trio. So I'm making it clear now. Please know you'll have the opportunity to see me this summer in many other projects and activities I'll be participating in, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you." To add insult to the injury, Spin claimed that she was owed unpaid royalties. But not only that, she also claimed that her input was used without her consent at the same time that she was being excluded from major projects, including the group's biopic. They basically made a film to tell the story of Salt-N-Pepa, but Spinderella was neither consulted or credited appropriately. While her character was portrayed, Spin had no voice whatsoever in how her story was created, which is obviously messed up. So what did Spin do? Well, Spinderella took her rage in public, starting off with an Instagram post where she called out Salt-N-Pepa for their treatment behind the scenes. However, ranting on social media wasn't enough for her. In an appearance with Out Loud with Claudia Jordan, she shared her struggles, explaining,
"Someone that works as an equal, that does the same thing that you're doing as an equal, and you treat them as such. I woke up to that. I woke up and I said, no more.
On the other hand, Spin also filed a lawsuit against their former group mates to put pressure on the duo regarding their lack of payments and contract breaches.
I think they feel that they inherited me. And so his idea and their idea somehow was different. But my idea was the seed was planted as being in Salt-N-Pepa, you know, fulfilling that is what I did.
But her fight wasn't all just about money. See, it was also about respect and recognition. And because of that, many fans rallied around her, as they were outraged over how an essential member of the group had been treated. Pepa was even asked about the situation when she appeared as a guest in the Really daytime show, and this was their explanation.
It's out of our hands, and she always blames us, you know, think that's, you know, to fight. We do fight, but sometimes they like, no, we just want, you know, the Salt-N-Pepa, and it's hard.
However, fans quickly pointed out that it looked like Pepa didn't really see Spinderella as part of the group, with users commenting, "She may not think that she was in the group, but the fans did," and even diehard Salt-N-Pepa fans believe that Spin was a legit part of the group. I'm a true Salt-N-Pepa fan, and Spinderella was truly a member of the group. She played a vital role not just as a DJ, but she danced, rapped, and brought energy to the group. So it wasn't really looking good for Pepa, especially when she would boast about not listening to Spinderella's advice.
A lot of that constant, and she wants to say, no, don't do this. You know, she's right. I'm like, I'm doing this. She's like, this is the move.
But you see, Spinderella's revenge tour didn't stop there. During a versus battle featuring SWV, Spinderella made a quiet but powerful statement by wearing a shirt that read, "United We Stand." Many fans believe that this was a subtle dig at Salt-N-Pepa, reminding them of the unity and respect she always desired. And it looks like they're stepping in the right direction, because in 2019, Spinderella's lawsuit about alleged unpaid royalties, multiple breaches of contract, fraud, and intentional misrepresentation was dismissed after agreeing to a confidential settlement. Is this the end of Salt-N-Pepa's legacy, or could a reunion rewrite their story? You see, before Salt-N-Pepa, the blueprint for an all-rap female group really started in the mid to late 1970s. And gaining respect was no easy feat. From carrying their own equipment to climbing fences for access to jam sites, this group basically had to do everything before they became popular.
Shows, we used to have to carry our own equipment. We had no money. We did, like, we'll get a Snicker bar and share it.
And unlike many other male rappers, the Mercedes ladies face unique challenges that sometimes didn't even involve their music and talents. As the first all-female crew, they were constantly underestimated and even sabotaged with their performance. For example, Sherry Cher recalled instances when promoters promised equipment for their shows only to back out at the last minute.
They have certain shows and then they say, oh, y'all don't have to bring your equipment or don't worry about it. It's gonna be equipment set there. And then we get there, oh, why y'all didn't bring your own equipment? And we're like, you know, then we started feeling we was being sabotaged.
Worse, male DJs often refused to let Baby D or RD Smiley use their turntables.
Some guys didn't want, oh no, y'all can't touch my, didn't want the Baby D and them to mess with their turntables. And then
Sherry Cher also recalled the times where the promoters wouldn't even pay them, saying,
we would do these parties and we'd be on the flyers, and then when it was time to get paid, the promoter would say, oh, I already paid the guys, and you know, I got y'all the next time, and we just heard this.
However, these obstacles were not enough to stop them. Instead, they doubled down on their music, improving their rap and DJing skills even more. Over time, the group started to have problems themselves. Issues inside the group began to shape the group's development. Members like Tracy T were forced out by strict parents, while others were left out due to the tiring rehearsals, unpaid gigs, and physical labor. But despite these setbacks, Sherry Cher was still determined as she began recruiting new members like her sisters, Sweet Pea and Stay Sty, to keep the Mercedes ladies alive. And after all of that, their hard work finally began to pay off when well-known figures like Guy Fisher, a Harlem kingpin, supported their group. But as their fame finally came, they had to really dig deep and discover what their music would be like. And it all began when Sherry Cher's mother suggested a radical idea at the time when hip-hop was strictly about rapping.
My mother kept saying we should incorporate singing. Boy, did my mother knew what she was talking about, because look what hip-hop is. Isn't that crazy?
At first, the group resisted. In their minds, there was no way that hip-hop fans would truly accept singing in the genre. But as they blended singing with rapping during rehearsals, they saw the potential.
We started doing these singing rehearsals and mixing it in with the rap. Then we started getting shows.
And this transition wasn't easy, to say the least. course, many critics didn't like the idea, and hip-hop purists disregarded their new style and experimentation, while some members of the group struggled with the changing dynamics. However, as the years have passed, this has become much more of a norm, so the Mercedes Ladies are actually one of the hip-hop groups that helped shift the culture. Despite their contributions to hip-hop, the Mercedes Ladies were left out of many historical narratives. Shuri argued that they were robbed of their rightful place as the first female hip-hop group.
And you let some company in and they're like, wow, that's so dope what you created. Oh wow. And then they leave, and then a month later you see it's being talked about all over TV, and you're like.
She stated that it was unfair that they didn't get the recognition for their work.
Doing it, and you're like, they came in my house and took my, and they that's how you felt. That's how you felt. Because we put our work in.
And unfortunately, the frustrations only grew more when the female group, The Sequel, who had no roots in the Bronx, became the first female rap group to release a record. They felt cheated and betrayed as they didn't get the recognition that they felt they deserved.
Sequence is the first female rap group on wax. They were not from the Bronx. They was from South Carolina, and she brought them up here, and I guess her writing team, maybe it was Cass.
Sherry described it by saying,
It was a slap in the face. It was a slap in the face. It's like...
You see, while male groups and rappers dominated the genre, the women, like the Mercedes Ladies who helped shape the culture, were unfortunately overlooked.
We're the first all-female DJ rap group in hip-hop history. You're gonna go and bring a group from the South and they become the first females on wax?
Now, let's move on to someone who's also very iconic, Foxy Brown. Rising from Brooklyn Street, Foxy Brown's career skyrocketed with icons like Jay-Z and Nas. But behind the platinum hits and bars, her career was also filled with controversies.
But do you look back and wonder, wow, look at all the success I've attained though?
Definitely. I mean, that's a blessing. But again, by attaining success, I've gone through a lot of turmoil and a lot of devastation, a lot of problems, but it made me stronger.
So, how did she even get into music? Well, ever since she was young, Foxy always wanted to make music. She was specifically inspired by a fellow female rapper, Roxanne Shante, who we're actually about to go over. In fact, she began rapping at just a young age of 12 under the name Big Shorty. Eventually, she got her big break at 15 when Trackmaster's producers, Tone and Poke, spotted her at a talent show. Their plan was to have her record a verse for LL Cool J's I Shot Ya remix. Their plan was to have her record a verse for one of LL Cool J's songs as a remix, and guess what? She nailed it. However, Foxy wasn't the only female rapper that was creating a name for herself at the time. You see, if you cross Brooklyn, Lil' Kim was carving her own path with her debut album Hardcore, released just a week before Il Nana. These two albums were huge for female rap, as they showed a shift in how women could express their power and sexuality in music. However, not everyone was on board with these explicit lyrics they spit out, especially the older generation who was worried for the youth. And Foxy would address these criticisms in an interview.
So men love it, and it does sell records. And then you get some heat from women sometimes. There's Brandy in the article said, and I'll try to read through this really quickly because I want you to comment on this because I thought this was kind of tough, you know?
Turns out, a lot of fans didn't appreciate that a black woman was calling herself a hoe.
You know, quote, "It bothers me that African-American girls get on their albums and call themselves hoes. I don't like that. I don't want to put Foxy out there by herself because a lot of people do it, but I have a problem with that. Why are you calling yourself a hoe? To go platinum?"
However, she argued that she doesn't even do or say those things.
That's tough.
Well, in response to that statement, I think that was way off. Number one, I don't get in records calling myself a hoe. Number one, I don't do that. So
she also stated that she's aware of her explicit lyrics, saying,
I don't do that. So, I mean, yes, I have explicit lyrics, but if I don't agree with what Brandy does, what she does to sell records is what she does. I might not think her popcorn schoolgirl image is cool either, but I would never comment on that. I respect everybody for what they do and how they make their money.
Right.
But even with these issues, female rappers like Foxy and Kim started to dominate the genre, and it looked like the two rappers could coexist. Foxy and Kim initially supported each other, often staying up until dawn sharing dreams and encouragement.
Listen, coming up, we got my girl, a joint for my girl. That's right, y'all. Brown, baby. That's right, Fox Brown. New joint coming out, about to hit y'all. Off her new album, we got her first single featuring Blackstreet. Yeah, y'all, it's the bomb. Check it out. We're going to hit y'all with it in a minute after I find my files in there.
But as their careers soared, their friendship soured. And there are even rumors that it was over just trivial matters like wardrobe disputes. So, did a simple outfit really spark one of hip-hop's most iconic feuds, or was there something deeper behind their beef? Well, by 1999, Foxy had released their second album, China Doll. Despite an okay reception from critics, the album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, making Foxy the second female rapper to achieve this accomplishment after another legend, Lauryn Hill. However, when it looked like Foxy was about to skyrocket to the top, her beef with Lil' Kim began to boil. You see, this all came when a vicious article in Five quoted Foxy making derogatory comments about Lil' Kim, leading to a confrontation with Daniel Smith, the journalist who wrote it. According to Smith,
I was scared. And it's Foxy. And she's got 4 people with her. Foxy's from Brooklyn. I mean, I live in Brooklyn and I love Brooklyn, but Foxy's from Brooklyn.
Furthermore, Foxy was also involved in some legal trouble. From spitting on hotel employees in 1997 to numerous A-word charges, Foxy's temper became as infamous as her rhymes. While these incidents kept her name in the headlines, these events forever damaged her image. So was Foxy able to handle the weight of fame and other controversies? Well, not really. You see, even Foxy's relationship with her first partner, Jay-Z, also began to falter. In the late 90s, Jay-Z introduced a new female artist to Rockefeller Records, and Foxy saw this as a personal betrayal, feeling replaced. Foxy now crumbled to pieces under the pressures of business and ego. But that was only the start of the controversy. You see, while all this was going on, rumors were swirling for years that the relationship extended beyond music. Allegations emerged that Jay-Z had a thing for Foxy romantically while she was still in high school. But of course, there's no hard proof for any of this, and to this day, it seems like it's just hearsay. However, it definitely affected Foxy's career. Now, let's go back to just her. You see, despite these challenges, Foxy continued to produce music. Her third album, Broken Silence, debuted at #5 and achieved a gold certification, which is still pretty good. However, even with this success, Foxy couldn't escape controversy. In late 2000, Foxy entered rehab for addiction to painkillers. While she bravely acknowledged her struggles, her reputation in the industry continued to suffer.
I don't know, everything. Everybody has their own, thing that they turn to help. It might not be the right thing, but you don't know when you're involved in it. Sometimes you have to step outside of your circle and then look at it for what it really is.
But with all the internal battles she was facing, she still had to deal with her nemesis, Lil' Kim. And unfortunately, this rivalry took a darker turn in 2001 when a confrontation at Hot 97 led to a
It was outside New York City radio station Hot 97 last week. Police say it was Lil' Kim's posse versus friends of Foxy Brown. 5 guns in all, 21 shots fired, and 1 man shot in the back.
Luckily enough, Foxy wasn't present.
Reigning pop star divas, Lil' Kim known for her barely there outfits, Foxy Brown for her no-nonsense lyrics. Now, what began as a war of words has escalated to a hail of bullets.
However, Foxy would later on clarify that she had nothing to do with the shooting.
I just don't think somebody should get killed before people realize that a change has to happen.
However, many fans speculated that she was involved due to the ongoing beef between the 2 female rappers. But according to Foxy, she wasn't really the one that started the beef.
Isn't this kind of like throwing fuel on the fire?
After 2-3 years of just being verbally attacked, I felt like I owed it to my fans.
Foxy says Lil' Kim pointed similar lyrics at her first.
But regardless of who started this beef, you can't deny that this was one of the most famous rap beefs ever. This was like their Nicki versus Cardi, but just more iconic and cool, I guess. But unfortunately, things would keep getting worse and worse for Foxy. In 2005, her life took an unexpected turn when she suffered sudden hearing loss.
The choir.
In May 2005, my life was altered drastically. But I've discovered in your darkest hour, the confusion that shrouds your daily existence can become overwhelming.
Foxy was forced to adapt, using a hearing aid and relying on others to tap beats for her, and continue working on music.
Overwhelming. During the recording of my new album, Black Roses, I was diagnosed with sudden severe hearing loss. As time passed,
fortunately, her hearing was partially restored back in 2006, however, it couldn't erase the damage that was already done to her personality and career. But the worst for Foxy Brown was yet to come. Unfortunately, legal issues continued to destroy her. See, back in 2007, she was sentenced to a year in prison for violating probation related to a 2004 assault case, where she attacked 2 women who were giving her a manicure. In that same year, she was sentenced to 76 days in solitary confinement due to a fight with another inmate. Upon her release in 2008, she attempted to reignite her career but struggled to regain the momentum she once had. After all, she still had plenty of fans supporting her.
My love for Foxy is so strong. I've been with this girl since '95. She's just the best female rapper out there. Like, there's no one better than her.
But while Foxy's fiery persona kept her in the headlines, her rival Lil' Kim was building an empire of her own.
In this industry, what I've learned is you never know.
Now, let's wind the clock back a bit more and go back to the 80s, back when hip-hop was truly only dominated by male MCs. However, that changed when a young lady from Queens entered the booth and started rapping, the one and only Roxanne Shante.
I started a career in hip-hop that spanned over 35 years, has led to a movie, commercials, being one of the most sought after hosts, and I'm the third most sampled voice in hip-hop, all because clean underwear.
So how did she even start rapping? Well, in 1984, when Roxanne was only 14 years old, Marley Merrill approached her to ask her if she could record a track that would respond to the hit 80s record Roxanne Roxanne by UTFO. At the time, Marley was living above a laundromat that Roxanne frequented. On her way into the laundromat, Marley called her to freestyle for him.
One day on my way to go to the laundromat, Marley Marl happened to live right above the laundromat, and he was in his window and he saw me going to the laundromat and he said, listen, Shante, I heard that you could freestyle, because I was a great freestyle artist.
Now, Roxanne apparently only had 20 minutes to do this record, as she was still waiting for the dryer that she used to stop by at. So within that time, in between putting her clothes in the dryer until she had to get them out, she recorded the song Roxanne's Revenge.
So we had exactly 20 minutes, 10 minutes for me to go and do something else for my mom, and 10 minutes to make a record. I made the record in 7. It took me a minute and a half to get upstairs to his house and a minute and a half to get back downstairs to my laundry. And that's how I did Roxanne's Revenge, which was a complete freestyle, 7 minutes and 6 seconds of just...
Little did Roxanne know, thanks to the small time window while waiting for her dryer to stop, she would record a hit that would make her one of the first female rappers to hit the mainstream. Unfortunately, due to a copyright claim, the track had to be re-released featuring a different background track. It also peaked at number 22 on the Hot R&B and Hip Hop Songs chart. And this wasn't normal at all. The success of Roxanne's Revenge sparked what would be known as the first and biggest documented hip-hop rivalry, which we now know as the Roxanne Wars. The original Roxanne Roxanne track was about a woman who spurned the advances of each UTFO member. It was a huge hit at the time, and when Marley Marl asked UTFO to hop on his radio show, they didn't show up. And it only came to be because Marley Marl asked UTFO to hop on his radio show, they didn't show up, which made him angry at the group and prompted him to create Roxanne's Revenge with Roxanne Shante, which essentially was just a diss track that attacked each member of UTFO. So, seeing how Roxanne had sold more with the response track, UTFO responded in kind with another track, which they called The Real Roxanne.
On a wax. So hey, that's not fair. We created this, and she's selling more now. And we're like, okay, we need to hurry up and crush this. And so we wanted to come out with what we would refer to as The Real Roxanne.
And you see, The Real Roxanne, which was performed initially by Elise Jack and later replaced by Adelaida Martinez, was also a huge hit. However, it sparked this trend where several other rappers also joined in on the war, creating other characters in the story of Roxanne, including Roxanne's parents, brothers, and even her supposed doctor. While accounts differ, it's said that around 30 to 100 tracks were produced in connection with this war. While all that went on, the back and forth continued between UTFO and Roxanne Shante. Several diss tracks between both parties were released, attacking each other, including Shantae's Bite This and Queen of Rocks, and a couple tracks by UTFO. So, while this beef involved a purely fictional character, this whole thing paved the way for the careers of various female rappers, most notably Roxanne Shante. However, this wasn't exactly the most sturdy foundation. You see, Roxanne's entire career was basically based on dissing other rappers. The Sunday Times even credited her for popularizing diss tracks in general. And after the wars essentially sizzled out, Roxanne continued her dissing barrage, with this time the rapper Sparky D, who herself joined in on the aforementioned war with her track Sparky's Turn and Roxanne You're Through. However, when you have a career where you essentially attack everyone at every turn, it's not surprising that most of your female MCs in the 80s and in the early 90s didn't show much love to her. However, after 1992, she never released another album and basically faded away.